met a gypsy.
You know, like kind of just keeps you in check.
Yeah.
So.
I did my first podcast with headphones only the other week when I was in America.
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't done it before with the headphones. And it was good because there was 4 of us. Like, you can kind of talk over each other. But we were drinking beers. We were like...
Was that the Drink Champs one?
Drinking Bros?
Drinking Bros.
Do you know those guys?
Nah. I've heard of them, but I don't know.
I think they're... I mean, I hadn't met them, but they're pretty... I think they're pretty big in the podcast game.
Yeah.
Because when we did it, it came out at like... It was number 80 in the world for the day. And it was just talking bullshit. And the boys own like a... It's called Hard AF Seltzer. It's like a vodka.
Yep.
And they're like 8% cans.
You were just
and we had like 6 of them before we started, and then I did a shoey out of a fucking Texan cowboy boot, and I'm like, boys, I've got to have a piss. Like I did 2 pisses in the podcast. I'm like, fucking hell.
Well, if you're busting for a piss in this at all, just say, wait, hang on.
Sweet.
And so there's
I've drank about 3 litres of water already today. So
you're like pretty health conscious, eh? Like it's a pretty massive part of your program.
It is. Like I try to be as much as I can. Like I'm not.
You're not crazy.
Nah, I'm not crazy, but like I'm like self-educated on like training. Like as in I've never really learned off anyone, but I've kind of taught myself a lot of that stuff. But as far as like the nutrition and stuff goes, I would say I'm as good as I can be. Like I don't know too much about it, but I just try to do the right thing when I can. I guess I don't know. Like I eat a lot too because I train a lot and burn a lot of energy. I'm always up. Like, dude, I get up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock most mornings. So I've already had like 2 to 3 meals before like 7 a.m. So I just like eat heaps throughout the day, just like smaller sort of portions. But drinking, like I smash water, man. Like I'll drink like probably I don't know 5 liters.
Dude,
probably.
I need to get on that. Like for whatever reason, Like so I've only got 1 kidney.
Oh,
and
no way.
and I'm on this like blood pressure medication because of the kidney thing. And then I pretty much like can't be dehydrated when I'm on this medication, but I'm always fucking dehydrated.
How do you
drinking water makes me feel nauseous.
Really?
Yeah.
You should maybe get some. Have you ever drank like the BCAAs?
Well, that's what I do.
It makes it
like
a bit more exciting.
Electrolytes.
Yeah,
I'll
same
just
sort
get
of
like
thing.
little bits of electrolytes in there.
Because even like if I'm getting because it's pretty easy to get sick of that, like just drinking water. But I might even just throw like a half a scoop of that in, and I always put like I use creatine every day, like 10 grams of that a day, like normally like 2 scoops.
Yeah.
And that shit's good for you, man.
It is, eh?
That's like, but it's funny with creatine. It's like you got to take it well, you don't have to, but it's better to take it every day, even if you're not riding a bike or mountain biking or training. Yeah. It's one of those things you got to keep it in your system, and I've learnt. So I just take that, and then like if it's getting a bit boring, chuck a scoop of that BCAA powder because at least it tastes a little bit more exciting. Like drinking tap water gets a bit old.
Well, that's what I do. The Soda Stream.
Oh yeah.
So like I just love sparkling. Like pretty much if it doesn't have bubbles, fuck off.
Fucking go away. Get fucked. No, I can fucking agree with you on that one for sure.
When did you start that whole like? Did that come out of riding, or it was just always how you've
like the training and stuff? No, to be honest, like I didn't know much about it. I never really went to gyms. Like I actually grew up playing footy, like rugby league, in Sydney. My family's pretty big in the footy and stuff, so I used to do that. Like did a lot of that kind of training, but I never really went to the gym until I lived in China when I was. I think I was like 18 maybe or 19 I think when I moved there, and I lived there.
What was that for?
That was it was like a Freestyle Kings.
So you went over and did that?
Yeah.
There's a few of you boys that did that.
Yeah. So I was there for like 2 years, and I kind of just like, we had a lot of time to kill basically because we rode at like 9:30 or 10 p.m. every night. Yeah. So it was like, what are you going to do all day? And we had access to a really good gym. So I sort of just started picking it up and like trying to learn things there. And it was mainly at the start, it was just to try to kill time throughout the day so you weren't bored because no one spoke English. Like, there was nothing to do. Yeah. And you can only talk to yourself for so long before you get bored. Yeah. So I started going to the gym, and then at the start it was like I kind of didn't really know what I was doing, but I didn't really care because it was just, there was a couple of us there. And then, I don't know, it was after like probably honestly like a couple of weeks, and then I was like, I don't mind this. So it's kind of pretty cool. Yeah. And then I sort of just started getting into it there, and that's I'm really glad that it's probably the best thing that come from that whole experience was, I mean, there was a couple of good things, but that was one of the best things because once I got home, a lot of the other guys kind of fell off the training bandwagon, so to say, and I kind of just kept it going. I haven't really stopped. So that was like 8 years ago.
Yeah,
and I don't think unless I've been injured, I haven't had a day off. Like,
that's sick.
For the whole time, yeah. The only times when I'm injured, but even when I am injured, I still kind of find a way. Like, I was doing training flat out at the start of the year with a broken femur. I was getting up and just crutching into the gym and hooking into it. But no, I like it. It's a hobby for me. It's not even if I wasn't doing freestyle and whatever, I'd still be doing the training because I actually enjoy it. Whereas I know a lot of people do it because they have to, but I've just been lucky that I've kind of looked at it like a bit of a hobby. So I actually enjoy that just as much as the bike sometimes. Like, I reckon it's sick. So
yeah, that's I did Dean Lucas's podcast the other day. Yeah, and then he asked me like, what's one thing that you'd like do differently through your life? And I said I would just train in the gym for the sake of training. Yeah. And if I could go back in time, and I say it to these boys too, I'm like Rones has got a gym membership now, and like he started going to the gym, and I was like, boys, if I could do one thing different, I would go back to when I was 18, 19, and I would just start doing weights. Yeah. And not, not to get massive, but just to have it as a daily ritual. Habit. Yeah. I mean, it's good. Like, obviously you feel a bit better in yourself, but it's also good for, any kind of sport you're doing. Like, I look at it for like injury prevention as well. Like, if you're kind of built to take a hit, then I feel like, and it's different in every sport. Like, if you're racing motocross or supercross, you don't want to be, jacked 90 or 100 kilos. Yeah. But I think, if you can be sort of strong and flexible enough that you can kind of take a hit, I feel like the injury prevention it's like so much higher. You know what I mean? Like, you can come off preseason and still be fine. Like, you can bounce and roll and whatever. So that's another thing. Like, when I started sort of aiming towards doing some bigger stuff off some bigger ramps and stuff, like, I kind of had to be built to take a little bit of a hit. Like, on the airbags are so good and they allow you to do so much stuff, but people don't realize that when you're jumping off like bigger style ramps, like, you do take a pretty decent hit. Whack, so it's kind of, that was like another thing I found, that if I could kind of put on a bit of muscle, it would allow me to do more of that. Yeah. And then, like, you kind of just get hooked on that, on like, you feel better, you're a bit stronger, you can throw the bike around, and then it was just easy to keep trying to do that and try to train a little bit harder for a bit longer, or, lift a bit heavier or whatever. So I kind of almost like a bit competitive with myself in that way, like, not with others at all, but like with yourself, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know what it's like with training, like, you kind of always want to go a little bit harder until you need a rest. But so I'm glad that I started doing all that. But it's cool up here, like on the Goldie, there's like a big culture of it. Yeah, there's gyms on every corner of the street, and like everyone trains and is pretty into it. Whereas in Melbourne, where I have lived before this, it was a bit different there. I was sort of on your own, kind of. Doing solo, but I was training at like 3:30 in the morning. So I don't. Who else would want to come then? Like, come on. But nah, it's cool up here. I've been loving it on the Goldie. Yeah, I just spent a month in Dubai, and I wasn't able to do, because the thing that's kind of killed the gym for me a little bit, and this is what I tried to push through in Dubai, is like, because I'm doing jiu-jitsu like on the kind of daily, like that's like my week sort of training is based around that. Yeah. You're just getting fucking toweled up. Yeah. If you're sore and your movements like restricted. Yeah. So I've just never really wanted to go through the pain of like those first few weeks in the gym where everything's just crazy sore. Yeah, you feel pretty average the first few weeks. But in Dubai, I just went every day, and I just hammered just the most basic shit and was just cooking myself because I could be real sore. Yeah. And I noticed like, even by I was probably 6 weeks I was away, but by the last week in the gym, like, I could go and just do like a hard session. Yeah. And the pain I wasn't so sore that I couldn't go and do jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So that's kind of like where I wanted to get to. Yeah, I think it's good to leave the gym with a little bit of, there's a difference between being in pain and then having like a bit of a good sort of soreness, more of like a muscle soreness, and that's kind of what you look for, really. But I guess that's where if you stay on top of your
creatine and protein. I know it sounds super basic, but it actually does. I never used to believe in it. I was like, whatever. People just want you to fucking spend money.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of the stuff is bullshit. I reckon, but.
Just like your basic creatine and protein.
That's like, I just stick to that. Like every day, even when I don't go to the gym, even if I'm at home being lazy, I still do that. Like every day, 100%, because it's just kind of good to keep that in you, because no one eats perfect every day. Whereas if you can have a protein shake and whatever, not as a meal replacement, but you're still sort of getting the stuff that you need to be on top of things. So I feel like with the recovery and stuff, like the first few weeks, if you've had a heap of time off, first few weeks are going to be shit no matter what you take. But if you can stay on top of that sort of stuff, I feel like it does help. But like, you just have to kind of be a little bit consistent. But I mean, it's hard, you know, certain people like yourself, you're traveling and you're doing this and that. Like it can be hard. It's not necessarily easy. Like you got other shit going on in life. It's not, for the majority of people, that's not the most important thing. But
yeah, but I feel like to a certain extent though, like to bust out 150 push-ups and, you know, 100 burpees. Like, that's like a pretty fucking good workout if you just did that. So, like, whether you travel, you can do that in an airport if you just don't care about looking like a dickhead.
Yeah, you know, fuck it, who cares? Yeah, I'll happily look like a dickhead.
so yeah, it's like, you know, you can't, there really isn't an excuse. And I'm kind of trying to get to
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Like, I remember during the lockdowns in Victoria, there wasn't really much going on. So, I remember going on YouTube and I typed in, like prison workouts to see what like those mad dogs did, and like you can get like a rag or like a dry times towel and have you and your mate, and one person can be doing like tricep pull downs and the other person's doing biceps. There's so much shit you can do, and then obviously like your pull ups and your push ups. I feel like they're probably pretty underrated. Like doing push ups is so good for everything, you know. But it's like, there's heaps of stuff that you can do.
It's just having the commitment and making it into a
you just got to have a go at it. That's the thing. It's like, you don't know unless you have a crack. So it's easy to talk about it, but you just have a go at it. And you've only got to do it for a couple of days, and then it's just part of your routine, I reckon.
Yeah, no, so that's me this year. That's one of my goals for this next little bit.
Hook in, mate. Hook into it.
Did you put on much weight over that period? Like, what was your body shape like when you first started in China? Were you always kind of bigger?
Nah, I was like, so when I first started, I probably weighed 75 kilos.
Yeah, that's what I weigh now.
And then I started training. I put on a little bit of weight. Like I put on a couple kilos straight away just because I hadn't ever really done it. Like, so you're going to build a couple of kilos straight away, but then you'll plateau and that'll be it for a while. But then when I came back home and then I broke my neck pretty badly. I broke C1, which is, you know, right at the top, and C6. So I had like a Jefferson fracture, it's called, of C1. I don't know the exact statistics, but I'm pretty sure when you break your C1, there's like a very good chance you should be paralyzed. So I broke that. Someone actually moved a ramp on me at a show. I'm not going to mention the name, but someone, just a wanker, he was a promoter. So we'd already done one show in the morning, which was smooth. Everything was good. And then there was like an intermission, like we were like doing some signings and stuff. And then he moved the ramp, like the up ramp, which was like a trailer ramp. He moved it to, I believe he was trying to get something through. Like he needed to move it to like make space to get something. There was monster trucks and stuff there. Anyhow, and then he forgot to move it back. And then I was the first.
Fucking retard.
Yeah, I was the first person. So he moved it, so it was at 75 and then it went to 55, and you'd think, fuck, how did you not notice? But from where we were sitting, we were like on the up ramp side, like way back here, and there was like a safety airbag, you know, on the back of the truck, and there was some other stuff in between the ramps. So from where we were, it wasn't noticeable. Plus, you'd never think that would happen.
Yeah.
So I lucky it was just the first jump, which for us it was just like a wave to sort of get the crowd involved. But I jumped like 75 feet. Picture jumping a freestyle ramp to flat, like not having anything there. So I just went like that. It's on YouTube actually.
Dude, find that.
I think type in JO crash. But so I broke my neck.
That sucks so bad.
And then that one there, 7 years ago, Curramborough, 2015. Yeah, it was a pretty good one. Oh no, it wasn't an airbag.
Oh.
But I get up. So I broke in that right there. I've got a broken neck, a broken ankle. I crushed my thyroid in my throat, and I had a leak in my heart. I don't really know what that means.
What?
But, so I had, you wouldn't picture it because I'm walking around in that.
Off, baby.
But I was like, I was pretty cooked. I was in all sorts. But so what I actually,
and you just know as soon as you hit the ring.
Yeah, I was.
Like,
I was in like a bit of strife just there. But so the wanker who was running that event wouldn't call an ambo. So I actually had just a random dude from the crowd.
Why wouldn't he call an ambo?
Oh, he didn't want it to look bad. He just thought I was a goose, I think. But someone from the crowd, I'm not sure who it was, but if you're listening to this, cheers, mate. But he helped me load my bike into my ute, and then I just drove to I drove home, which was an hour, because I wanted to drop my bike.
What?
I was going to go to the hospital, obviously, but I went home because I wanted to drop my bike off so it wouldn't get stolen. And then someone from home, it was a chick I was knocking off at the time. She drove me to the hospital, and then I went to Frankston Hospital, and then I sort of just, I think I went to walk in, but by that point the adrenaline had kind of worn off, and I think I went to step, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm in a bit of strife. My ankle was all blown up and stuff, so I sort of just got like assisted in. And then, they did some scans and stuff. Then they sent me to like a bigger hospital. I think it was the Monash Hospital in the city of Melbourne. And then they're like, you got a broken neck. Like you're pretty fucked. And then the other bits and pieces. So anyway, moral to that story, you're asking about my size and stuff. So after I broke my neck, I was pretty, like, I kind of faded away to not much, because I was in a neck brace for like maybe 6 months or 7 months or something, but I couldn't do anything. Like I just could lay down. I couldn't even have a pillow. I just had to lay dead flat.
Yeah.
So I wasn't doing much. I wasn't really eating. I was pretty sick. Like I wasn't really in a good state. So I probably
like painkillers and stuff like that.
Nah, no painkillers. Nah, like I wasn't necessarily in a whole lot of pain. Things were just super hard.
Like you just couldn't do anything.
I just couldn't do anything. And if I did try to do something, I was putting myself at too much risk, like of really sort of making things worse. So I wasn't taking any painkillers or anything. I was just like, I guess because I wasn't doing anything, I was normally a pretty active sort of person, then not doing anything for so long. Like, I don't know, body was just going, what are you doing, mate?
Yeah,
so
if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, so I was just like, after that, man, I probably weighed like, I don't know, you wouldn't recognize me. I'll have to send you a photo. I got a photo of me in hospital when I left, and I was like probably skin and bone. I was probably like 60-something kilos. And then now I weighed myself this morning at the gym. I was 97 kilos. So it's like 213 pounds, I think. But I was like, good 30 kilos less, I think. But that was, what's that, 2015. So, I mean, I've been obviously having to go sort of since then, but yeah, that was a pretty average one.
So what do you reckon, like, broke your neck? Like, what part of that crash?
I think it was just when
you hit the handlebars with your head,
I honestly think,
or like compression.
I think it was just the impact of the landing.
Yeah.
I think that's all it was. It was just like that, and then my neck sort of went down, and so hitting the handlebars, that crushed my throat.
Yeah.
So that was like, so I was struggling to breathe a lot. And it's actually still now, like, that's probably the only thing that's really affected me. My neck's fine now. I haven't got the same kind of range of movement, but that doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I still kind of see from that still kind of affects me is the throat. Like I breathe real, like people think, oh, what are you doing, mate? I breathe that heavily.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm asleep. Like sometimes, like, my missus will wake me up. She's like, are you alive? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. So that's the only thing that really kind of still gets me there. But I think it was just the impact of douche, like, I think the bike, the bike handled it pretty well as far as the suspension and what the bike could do. And then, but it was funny, the bike had no damage. It was not even a broken lever. It was sweet.
That is wild, dude.
So it always goes one or two ways. Sometimes you have a massive crash, and like the bike's totally fine and you're fully busted up. Or other times you tip over in a rut and you got like muffler, subframe, everything. The bike's stuck. It costs you like $3,000 to fix it. You haven't got a scratch on you.
Yeah.
So, but like these days, well, any days I guess, but I'd certainly rather the $3,000 than a busted up
6
neck
months
and
in a neck
yeah,
brace,
because it was so crap. It was funny, like when I got the neck brace off, I felt like, you know, those little bobble heads that people have on their dash.
Yeah.
So when they took it off, I couldn't hold my head up at the start. Like I'd go like this and then I'd go. And I was actually to be honest, I was pretty embarrassed, like to go out when I had the neck brace, I didn't care. I was still doing whatever. People would look at you and stuff, but it didn't bother me. But when I took the brace off, I was actually I looked a bit weird because my neck was so skinny. It was like really, like it looked weird, man. And because I'd had my neck, like my head like that for like 7 months. So it looked like my neck was really long.
Yeah.
It was super skinny. Yeah. And I was like, fuck, what's going on here? I was like, how do you make your neck better? Like, how do you make it bigger? But then, I mean, it took a little bit of time, but that became like.
Did you do neck exercises?
Oh, the physio had me doing like just some basic, this sort of stuff. But I think just getting back to normal life, like that kind of just fixed itself.
Yeah.
But the only problem I really have now is just the range of movement, and like I've got to use like a special pillow on that because otherwise I get my neck's like just no good.
Dude, I've honestly stopped using pillows.
Really?
You know what I do now? I roll up a towel.
Dry times.
And I just put put a towel behind my neck.
Yeah.
Because I actually I've got heaps of problems with my neck, just nothing to your extent. But sitting at a fucking desk for like 10 years, bro, just like...
Yeah, shit's bad for you.
It's honestly so bad. And like all my psoas muscle...
in lower back and stuff.
Oh, bro. So like there's probably like 2 years... It was pretty much through COVID where like, dude, literally all I did was a podcast.
Yeah.
Like I was either recording or I was sitting there and I was editing them. It's before the boys were like working here.
Yeah. So you're a one-man band going mad.
Until then, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I fucked myself. Like my chest got so tight, all my lower back, my psoas, my neck.
Yeah.
And then going to jiu-jitsu. So I'd be like literally stationary all day.
Yeah.
And then go to jiu-jitsu and just get belted, like fucking gets cranked and you're all in like getting tied up in a knot basically.
Yeah.
So I just had like two extreme ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, yeah.
And then lately, so I got it's called a Griff, I think it's called a GSS harness. If you want to look it up.
I use this silly thing that looks like it's a pillow, but it looks like a brick.
Yeah.
And it's like super uncomfortable to start off with. It's just dead flat and it's as hard as a rock.
Yeah, right.
And it's from like I got it from a chiropractor.
Yeah.
But like at the start, I was like, I can't use this thing. I was like, this is crap. But then now, is that you, the little dog?
Yeah. Go like GS neck trainer or something like that.
But yeah, now like I run it like.
So you rate it?
Yeah, I can't.
Easy to travel with and shit.
I mean, it's just like it's a full size pillow, so you can. Okay. But like when I don't.
Yeah, this is looking gimpy.
This is looking a little bit. How you going?
I don't know where.
It's cool if you use that in your spare time.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's got these. I can't find the exact one, but it's got these bands on it.
Yeah.
And you can just take it anywhere. It's in like a little bag. Put it in a doorway. Yeah. And then you just literally put it. Like, you can do every side.
Yeah, do all the stuff.
And it's got all different, like, resistance. And but, dude, it's, like, actually helped a lot, right. Man. And I reckon for, like, riding and stuff, because you got your helmet and there's, like, extra weight. Like, everything's getting thrown around.
Yeah.
It's what all the, like, the Formula 1 drivers and all, anyone that does anything like that, they're always doing that.
They're doing that
training.
Sort of shit, yeah.
But, yeah, it's actually, like, helped me out quite a lot.
Yeah,
between
that's interesting.
I
reckon, like, a lot of UFC guys and stuff would probably use that too, because I see those kind of guys do a bit of like neck sort of training, like neck strength.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you get punched in the head for a living, you've got to have a pretty tough chin and a tough neck. So I can only imagine that they would do that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I did buy a neck brace for a little bit when I came back to riding. I had a Atlas neck brace, which was good. It was great, but I kind of found it was a little bit restricting with freestyle.
Yeah,
like,
I bet.
I thought it was good for riding tracks and stuff, but I kind of found that, well, for me personally, when I would like pull to do a flip, I think it was the one in particular was like caught over flips, and you'd pull back, and I kind of felt like, I just always felt like it was there and it was a bit too much. Yeah. Like it was kind of, so then I stopped using that, and then I felt kind of better straight away. But I think to go like from a broken neck back to riding, I think it was like a fantastic like stepping stone, because
just to give
when
you a
I
bit
had
of
it on, I
security.
felt like kind of pretty solid with it on, and then I ran it for maybe, I don't know, 6 months or something, and I think it was a good stepping stone to then getting back to not having one.
Yeah.
But I've definitely, like, since I've put my neck to the test with all the different airbag stuff, and like I've done some like land up fully upside down and stuff, and I haven't had any dramas. So,
Yeah.
But I think I think that kind of goes back to training and building up your muscles around like your traps and stuff around your neck. I feel like if you can kind of be pretty solid there, that's where I say like the injury prevention, like that kind of, you can kind of sort yourself out a little bit in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you did break your neck, like, did they give you any like, dude, you're fucking, this could have been like super bad?
Yeah.
Like,
So when I was driving my car to the,
that's so hectic.
Yeah, it was crazy, and because I was just on my own, obviously. My old man, so it was in Victoria. I was in Curramborough, which is near Phillip Island. If you know that, you know where that is. So I jumped in my ute and I called my old man, who was in Sydney, where he lives, and I'm like, man, I'm not feeling too good. I've just had a crash, and he's like, oh, what's wrong? And I just was like, fuck, man, I don't know. Like, I don't feel very good. Like something's
wrong.
Something's not right. I didn't think I had a broken neck, but I'm like, something's like, fuck, I didn't feel good, you know? And but basically they said, like, when I was driving, if I had got to like an intersection or a roundabout, and literally just the motion of turning my head like that, I would have been 100% would have been paralyzed. So when I was driving, I was just like, I didn't feel like I could have moved. Like, I could have moved if I wanted to, but
but when you're in that injury mode,
I was
just
sitting there. I probably would have rather get T-boned by a car than like look sideways. But like Bronte Holland, for instance, he broke his C1 and C6, so the exact same two vertebrae. So, and and he was paralyzed, straight away. So it's definitely like super lucky that I was fine, basically. But I guess I probably didn't know the severity of how serious it was. I mean, I was young and everything, and because I loaded the bike up and drove there, I didn't really.
Right.
I was a little bit blown away when they said broken neck. Like, I wasn't obviously I wasn't stoked, but I wasn't like fucking game over. Like, I was just like, all right, well, what's the process to fixing it, or how, like, what do I do? And I was actually, one thing I was stoked about was they were going to do the halo. Have you seen a halo where they screw it in?
Yeah.
And that was like 100%. They were going to put the halo on, and like, it's a pain because you got to go back to the hospital like every week, and they re-tension it, like tighten up the bolts in your skull. And I'm like, fuck. And then like trying to sleep and shit with one of them, I'm like, fuck. And I was pretty disappointed. That's the only thing I was really like, damn, I don't want to.
It's pretty gnarly.
And then it was all like 100%. We were going to go and do it. And then this nurse came in. I guess she was like one of the head nurses that was looking after me. And they just ended up going with the brace. I think it was because of my age and stuff. Being younger, they thought that the neck brace would have been okay. So I remember the name of it. It was called a Miami J neck brace. And I remember I was running the Miami J for a while there, and I when I took it off, when I finally got it off, I took it home and burnt it.
Yeah.
You see, mate.
You're done.
You are done, mate. Yeah. But yeah, it was pretty average. But yeah, you still live to tell a tale. I feel sweet now.
Is that promoter still doing shows?
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I just got out of a 5-year legal battle with him. I was trying to, like, I prompted the legal battle because, like the negligence involved, and like pain and suffering,
duty of care,
all that sort of stuff. And because not only that, but he talked a lot of shit about me. He said that I didn't, even though clearly there's a video, he said that I didn't do it at his event. He didn't even know my name. He was calling me Jaco. And he was saying I was from Ballarat, or something Jaco from Ballarat. He made up a story that I went to, and this place doesn't exist, the Cranbourne nightclub, which I actually used to live in Cranbourne South. There's no nightclub in Cranbourne, never has been. And he said that I was like on the cans and I'd broken my neck. And he was putting out, like, he did a press report saying this, press release thing, But still to this day, he never once contacted me. He knows deep down it was his fault, but he never once contacted me to say, oh, I hope you're all right, or are you all good? And then he sort of started carrying on a bit, and I'm like, fuck this dude. And yeah, anyway, I was like, the lawyers that I had were doing a good job. I think they did a fantastic job, and it was looking super positive. I had a bunch of key witnesses, like friends that were people I'm friends with now, but I wasn't at the time, but they were actually there.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of different people, just random people in the crowd, and like it was I had pages and pages and pages full of like screenshots of people saying we saw him move it, blah blah blah. But then I ended up like losing the thing.
Really?
Yeah. So I got nothing because I couldn't make any money for ages. And I basically had to have like a carer. Like my nan had to move down because I was living with my mum and she was working, so I had to have someone like, make me some toast and that. I was good. But yeah, now that dude's trying to he's hit me up to pay for all of his legal fees and that over the 5 years, and I just said fucking bad luck.
That's hectic. So what grounds did you lose?
I don't know, man. It was just the judge was just I don't know, no good. Like there was like. I don't actually understand how I could have, like, it was even once the court, like, we did the court over Zoom because it was during COVID.
Yeah.
And I think it went for like a week or something, and even afterwards I was like that probably couldn't have gone any better. Like it was, everything went really good as far as the witnesses that I had, the witnesses that he had, they all had a different story of the events. Like they didn't know what time anything happened or what day it was, or they were saying that I was riding a quad bike at one point, and all they just didn't know what was going on because they were just making things up. So I was like, this is obviously looking really good. And then I think it was like, I don't know, a couple, maybe 3-4 weeks later, we got the final decision.
Yeah.
And yeah, just lost it. Bad luck. Better luck next time. I was like, but you know what? I'm glad it's over and done with. But I'm like,
yeah, it
would have been good to. Because like I spent a silly amount of money on like recovery sort of stuff. I had to do physio like 3 times a week for like a year. Like I think because I was like, whatever money I did have at the time, I spent it all. Like on all the stuff. So I probably didn't have much cash at the time, but I definitely had nothing. Yeah,
at the end of it all.
But like I went back to work. Like I was working with a neck brace and that towards the end when I could. I was just doing suspension, measuring shims and throwing some settings in. But yeah, it was a bit of a shit go. But
it sort of just sucks that dude can still do. Man, we need to take that down, Griff. It's creeping. that guy's creeping.
Yeah, he's fucking. I hate the fact that he's looking
really creeping.
Well, you know what though?
It's just a bummer that guy can still do shows.
Well, you know what's even worse. That video there, that's my incident, but there is a hell of a lot of things. If you Google this dude's name, he's been in many, many, many court battles with things that he's done that were completely unsafe. And the reason that I wanted to go to court, it wasn't to fill my pockets with money. I would have liked to have potentially made back some of the money that I spent as a 19-year-old kid because I didn't have anything. But it was... my whole drive in that was to shut him down, and it was only because when that accident happened, I reckon I had no joke, probably 4 other riders in Australia reach out to me and say, no way, like he did this to me. He actually moved a ramp on another rider who I don't want to mention names, but another rider that I can tell you afterwards.
Yeah.
That rider, I think, was knocked out and broke his wrist or something. And this is a dude that's like, he's a good rider.
Yeah.
So this has happened a lot of times, and it was more so the fact that he has no sort of care for the rider or the rider's safety. So that was what was driving me. Between that and then him sort of making up some shit about me, I was like fuck it, you shouldn't be able to do this because I could have pretty easily been paralyzed, and I don't even think he paid. Like, he didn't even give me my money for the event.
The event itself.
Fuck you, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And he was actually, because that was like just a close show to home, like a little country town thing. He was calling me, like he'd called me a few times in the week leading up, like really wanting me to go and do it. And I was not that I had heaps of things going on, but it was like, oh yeah, I'd love to come and like give you a hand and be at a local show. Like I was, felt like I was trying to. It was good for me, but I was also doing him a favor because another rider was meant to do it and they pulled out, so he really needed someone to fill the spot. So I felt like in a way I was kind of doing a favor for him as well. But yeah, fuck, that's life. It's like it doesn't bother me at the moment. Like it's
just a bummer. You can keep doing it.
Yeah, but you know what? It'll catch up with him one day. Don't you worry. Yeah, it's you can't. Yeah, every dog has their day. You can't really get around like that forever because shit catches up with people, and it might not be in a year or 2 years or 5 years, but there'll be one day old mate will get caught up with. Yeah. But won't have anything to do with me, by the way.
That's just karma. That's how karma works.
Yeah, that's it.
And so when you get back on like the rehab thing, like you got straight back into the weights, and then it sort of like built back up.
It took me a while. Like I was pretty kind of weak at the start, and I couldn't really do much. Like I'd go to the gym, and then I could maybe go like twice a week, maybe, and just do a little bit. And it was just like anything with your training, it's like consistency. Like you kind of. If you go to the gym every day for 6 months, you're not going to notice much. But if you go, 6 days a week for 5 years, you start to notice it. So it was literally, it just took a lot of time. But as I said, that was 2015, and we're the end of 22 now. So it's just been consistently going and having a crack since then.
Yeah.
So it sort of just took me a little bit. I was a little bit nervous.
Yeah, you would be, I reckon.
Just with the riding, not nervous, not nervous as if like, I don't know if I want to keep riding. Like that was the
just
only
worry about your body.
That was the only thing I wanted to do. But what I was a bit nervous about was when I landed off the ramp, like jumping 75. When I was landing, I was a bit worried about that initial sort of impact because you can't really replicate that.
Yeah.
Like I think I might have gone and rode motocross a few times or something, and then I went and rode with Cam Sinclair and. Like I went and like flipped my first ride and everything was still good, but I was a little bit probably nervous about that. But then once I did that, it was all right. It was just kind of like a little bit of rebuilding almost, like getting old tricks back and kind of, I guess the biggest thing is just your confidence.
Just confidence.
Yeah. And like you never forget how to ride a dirt bike, luckily, but it's more so about just trying to build your confidence back. But it's the same as any injury, like, every person that listens to this podcast would have had a mishap or some sort of injury, and it doesn't matter how severe it is, you still have to go through that process of getting your confidence back and feeling good on your bike. So it's not like, I have respect for anyone who's had any injury, even a broken wrist, because you still have to go through that same kind of mental game to get back to, doing the thing that you love. So, but yeah, I just tried to stay as consistent as I could with that kind of stuff, and then it just comes back naturally because, as I said, luckily once you have the fundamentals of like knowing how to ride a dirt bike that we learned when we were young, it's cool because you don't forget how to do things. Like you kind of comes back straight away, which is the beauty of it, I guess.
Yeah. What's your just to keep chatting a bit, because I feel like it's like a big part of your program is like the physical sort of side of it. But what is your like philosophy when it comes to like the gym and working out and stuff? Like what style of training are you doing? What kind of like, what do you think benefits you for riding the most? Like, because you'll hear a lot of people like, oh, you shouldn't lift weights because you get too big, then you get arm pump. I feel like a lot of that's like old kind of.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would probably agree with that for people that are racing. Like you don't want to be, especially if you're on a 250, you don't want to be heavy. Like a kilo is like a horsepower, so you don't want to be, and the arm pump side of things. But look, for me, like I grew up racing motocross, obviously, so I've got a good background in motocross. But with the sort of riding that I do, luckily I don't need to worry about having arm pump and stuff. It's just not really something I have to deal with. So, my kind of philosophy with training is like, I generally like to try to, whatever program I'm doing, I like to kind of mix it up every 3 months so your mind and your body doesn't get too used to it. So you can, I feel like if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, it's like your brain already knows what you're going to do as you before you even pull up to the gym. You know what I mean? If you keep it, you can go a bit stale. So sometimes I'll do like a push-pull legs. So like push movements one day, pull movements the next day, then legs, and repeat that twice a week.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that's a good thing to do. It's good to build strength like that, I think. So you're sort of targeting, so like your push movements, like a bench press, and then like a like your back sort of stuff and everything like that. But then I feel like what at the moment what I'm doing is like a body part per day. So I like to arms one day, shoulders, legs, blah blah blah. And I guess my philosophy is I don't really like to count reps too much. Like I would never want to do anything less than sort of 8, but I try to just go till failure with most things until you're fucked. You can't do any more because it's all well and good to do 10 reps or something, but if you're leaving like you just still got a heap in the tank, like you could have done 20.
Yeah.
It's like what's the point in that? Whereas if you can do 20 reps and put the weights a bit heavier, you know what I mean? And if you can try to get anywhere around 10 to 12 or whatever, but I just try to do it as many times as I can until I can't do any more, until I'm about to drop the bar on myself. So I just try to just have a go, like just have a crack at it, go hard, go heavy, and I'm not saying this definitely wouldn't work for
everyone,
for other kind of riding, you know, whether it might be BMX or mountain bike or motocross racing, but for what I do personally, that's the kind of training that I like to do. And you know, other freestyle riders it might not work for, but for me, I just feel like it's just good to be strong on the bike, and you feel like you can throw it around, and then you know when you are trying to learn new tricks and doing bigger ramps and stuff, you can take a hit in the airbag or landing or whatever you're on. So that kind of works for me. So like I'm definitely not an expert at all. Yeah. I've just taught myself from just going and, you know, YouTube and things and Google and things. But I just try to Google things and change it up every few months. But as long as you're sort of hitting the main kind of exercises on each workout, like the big like the deadlifts and the squats,
deadlifts, squats, bench, pull-ups,
all that kind of stuff. And just do it fucking heavy. Yeah. And stop when you can't do any more. Yeah. And then it's pretty simple. Like I'm pretty simple sort of fella. Like I don't know much about much, but if you're gonna go to the gym, well, you're gonna have a fucking good go at it. Otherwise, why would you go? You might as well stay at home.
Yeah.
So go there, and it doesn't matter if you're sweating and fucking groaning and carrying on. Who cares? You're going there to have a crack at it. And if anyone looks at you, tell them to fuck off, because you're going there to have a go. That's why you do your training. You go there to train, you know, and have a crack at it. So that's kind of the way that I like to do it. You know, again, it doesn't work for everyone, but that's just what I like doing, and that's kind of just what I enjoy doing as well. It's also about enjoying it, because you don't want it to be like something that you know, I got to go to the gym, like, which it is for a lot of people. But I feel like if you can make it sort of fun, in a way, or be a little bit creative, or be kind of competitive with yourself and think, last Tuesday I did this exercise and I did, you know, X amount of reps at this weight or whatever. If you're counting all your reps and stuff, you just try to do one more. And if you do one more, that's where you kind of get a little bit of motivation. Yeah. But I definitely like to train alone, because I kind of like to not really fuck around in between sets. I always like to try to do something. Yeah. And kind of, because really you only need to spend like 45 minutes.
That's what I found when I was doing it.
Yeah, you don't need to you can spend an hour, but you don't have to. You can
do something else in the gap.
Yeah, in the interim, do push-ups or do something else. But I think,
and then you're fucked in 40 minutes.
Yeah, and that's good. I think 45 minutes. I think that's perfect. You can 100% get everything done in that amount of time if you're not, you know, checking
breaking
your phone
in between sets.
Yeah, going on Instagram and looking at who's doing what and all that. Like, you do that after. So if you just go there and hook in, then you reap the benefits, and you haven't spent, you know, wasted 2 hours of your day there. And then that's where it can become a bit of a pain in the ass. It's like, I got to go training. Oh, there goes 2 hours. And then people make excuses like, I can't find time for it. But you can even do a good 30-minute one if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so I think it's but again, it's just about, you know, figure out what works for you.
Yeah. And then do you have any other stuff that in your life, I guess, personal performance wise, that's just non-negotiable? Like, is it a certain amount of sleep, is there any things that you do that?
Nah, not really. I'm not good at sleeping. Hey, really? I've got ADHD.
Yeah.
So like I find it pretty hard to sign off. So like some nights, like, not last night wasn't too bad, but the night before I normally go to bed at 8:30. Like that's what I like to do, because I get up early, up at like 3:30 or 4 a.m. But yeah, 2 nights ago I was like, I don't know what was going. Like, I'm not stressing out or anything. Like, it's all happy days, but I was like,
you just mind was going.
Yeah, and I remember I do a bit of sleep eating too. I get up during the night and go and make some toast and do carry on.
Right.
I normally get like 3 times in the night and have food 2 or 3 times every night. But it was like I looked at the clock. It was 3:30 a.m. and I hadn't slept yet. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And I was like, but I still got up at 6 and still went and did my training and stuff. So I had like 3 hours sleep. But normally, as long as I have sort of 5 or 6 hours, I'm pretty good. Like obviously, it's way better to get more, but I'm pretty good off 5 or 6 hours. So, but like if it's coming up to like a competition or a show or something, I just try to make sure I get more than that. But I don't really. As I said, I'm pretty cruisy. I'm pretty basic. I can go to sleep. If you're tired, we'll have a Black Rifle. Have a bit of caffeine. You'll be right, mate. Go to bed early the next night.
Get it up, yeah.
Yeah, get one in ya.
So you played footy as a kid.
Yep.
And then when did motocross, motorsports, freestyle, like when did that kind of enter the building? I
grew up in Sydney, like around the Cronulla area, Sutherland Shire. And then my old man bought me a QR50 for my 4th birthday, so I started sort of cruising around on that, and then I started racing when I was 6, which I think was the youngest you could race a 50. So I started racing around places like Oakdale, Nowra, Appin. So I sort of.
What was your old boy's background in the sport?
Not much. He's just like he was a gun footy player. But he had a bike, but he was just a chiller. Like he was, he did a bit of racing, but like he wasn't like, no one good.
Yeah.
He just did, he
just loved it.
Yeah, he just loved it. So I started doing that, and Dylan Wills.
Yeah.
So me and him were like, so our dads are best mates.
No shit.
So they went to like primary school and high school together.
No
so
shit.
Me and Willsy are born a week apart. So we got photos of us literally.
Shout out to Willsy. I love that dude.
So we grew up riding a lot. So we used to go and ride out there's like a tip out in Menai, like a rubbish tip, and we used to go and ride out there, and we just set up like witches hats and just do like figure of 8s and try to get some basic sort of technique. And then we both started doing like a bit of coaching with Greg Moss when we were young. But started racing when I was 6, and then I raced every Aussie title and all that sort of stuff. And it's funny, I've actually got photos of me and Jackson Richardson and Hayden Morris on the podium at the Aussie titles.
So you were that good at racing?
I was all right. I was good enough. But
I never knew that. That's sick.
Yeah, I'll have to pull them up later. I've got some cool photos. But then when I was 7, I moved down to, my parents split up. I moved to Victoria just because my mum got offered a job there. And we we just ran with it, went down there. And Matt Moss, or the Moss family, was at the time a good family friends. Their old man also went to high school with my mum and dad. And at the time, Matt was so I was 7, I think he was maybe 14. And he came down with us because he just got a ride with Yariv Konski. So he was on a CR85.
Yeah.
So we moved down to Victoria, and he was kind of going to be around the team, and they were doing I think it was Supercross Masters or something back then. And so anyway, he came down, and he come home from the track one day, and he said to my mum Tracy, he's like, "Oh, can my mate come and stay with us for a bit?" And my mum's like, "Oh, okay, like whatever." Yeah. And then this dude rocks up in a white Hi-Ace. It was Cam Sinclair, and this is before he was like Cam Sinclair. He was just a young dude. He might have been like 17 or 16, 17, I don't know, something like that. But so he was going to come stay for a couple of weeks, and then he ended up living with us for like 3 years. So
no shit.
Yeah, so that's kind of
So that just changed your direction completely.
Yeah, so I always looked up to Cam. I still do. He's been a massive part of my freestyle riding or career, if you could call it. But it was cool growing up. I was pretty lucky in a lot of ways, because it'd be common for me to come home from school, and we'd have Jono Porter would be there. Maddo used to come and stay. Jono actually had his JPI race truck parked at we had lived in a cul-de-sac. He had that there for a month, and Jono actually prepped my first bike for the Aussie titles, KTM 50.
No shit.
And heaps of people saw me. A lot of guys would come and stay and ride, because back then Victoria seemed to be the place for freestyle. That's where like Sinks and Bilko learnt to flip, and that was kind of the spot. Whereas now it's obviously the Gold Coast is kind of the hub. You know, it's kind of like the Temecula of Australia. But back then it was Vic, so people would often come and ride, and there was like a foam pit and stuff there, so people would come and ride, and then they'd just like stay with us and go from there. So that was kind of what got me interested in freestyle. I didn't really know much about freestyle before that. I just grew up loving racing, and I guess freestyle was very, very new. Like there wasn't even much going on in Australia. And then I remember, it was funny, like Cam and Bilko were always around, and I actually took Cam and Bilko to school for show and tell in primary because I thought they were mad dogs, which they are. But I remember like,
that is so good.
Yeah, Cam when he was living with us, and he was like learning. Wanted to learn the flip, and I think this was before the foam pit. But they just had like a super kicker out in a paddock I think it was in Turin. Anyway, and they had a super kicker with some hay bales and shit on it, and it was like every day he's like, all right, today's the day. I'm doing it. I'd like get home in the arvo, get home from school, and he's just like, I didn't do it. And then the next day, I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. And then he finally did it. He flipped like the super kicker. Him and Bilko both did it on the same day, I think. And he must have been, I don't know, he was young, man, but I remember he got his first contract for Crusty Demons. He was probably, I don't know, I'm just guessing, maybe 18 or something. But I remember he was stoked. I remember in the kitchen at home, and he was like, fuck, Crusty Demons, like, it was everything he wanted to do. And he signed the contract to flip 75, like every show. And he hadn't even flipped 75. And he's just like, bang, sign on the dotted line, let's go. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And then but at that point, I was still like more interested in racing. And then I used to go riding with him, and there was like a little motocross track where his ramps and stuff were back then. Yeah. And then I started just like jumping ramps and stuff, and I did find it really fun straight away. And then I did my first flip on a 250F when I was 14, off a super kicker. And then
was that in foam pit?
Nah, I started like, I flipped my 80. I flipped 75 into a foam pit on my 85 when I was like 12 or something. They've got videos of it. But I did my first flip to dirt on a 250F when I was 14, but that was off a super kicker. And then I did my first 75 foot flip when I was 15 in like 3 days. Like I wanted to do it before I was 15, but it just didn't work out. But I think at the time, that was a record for I don't know if it is now. It's probably other people that have done it younger, but yeah, it was 75. I was 15 on a YZ 250F. Like, and the thing just had a carby. It was just like no good. It's the old bog out. But then at that point, I was still racing. Like it was just a normal motocross bike. Like I wasn't really doing any sort of freestyle. But then I guess once I started, every time I'd go out and ride on the track, I'd try to do like 5 flips or 5 or 10 or whatever. And then I started just enjoying that more, and obviously looking up to those guys so much. Like they were almost like family to me. So yeah, watching them sort of learning new things and succeeding, it just was it was kind of like
motivating in that sense.
Yeah, and then but I did actually start to enjoy that kind of stuff more than racing. And it wasn't like I was never sort of pushed into doing it or like led into it. It was just like, I'm kind of into this sort of shit. So then I just kind of started from there. And then when I was 16, I started touring with Nitro Circus, but I was just the plant in the crowd. We used to do like the 3 and 4 person backflip.
Yeah, right.
So I was one of those crowd members. But that was cool because I was like 16, and we got to go all through Europe and America and Dubai, and I had a fake ID, so I was drinking beers and that and going mad. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And then I guess from there it was just a bit of progression, and and then I started taking it a lot more serious and trying to kind of do bigger and better things just for myself, and then I guess to fast forward a few years, I started doing working on double flips and stuff, because at the time it was so sick. Like I'd kind of get home from school, and me and Cam would go riding, and he'd be training for X Games, and I'd be operating the crane, like pulling him out of the foam pit, and he'd be like rain, hail or shine, he'd be just doing doubles and doubles and doubles, and I was just like, fuck, that's just so, like, it is just so awesome. Yeah. And then I was like doing double flips on mini bikes and stuff, like on 110s, when I was like 14 or 15 or something, because I just wanted to follow in his footsteps. And then I think I did a double flip on his 250 two-stroke when I was 17, I think, just into the foam pit. And then I really started, I was like, this is like so sick. So I started kind of, I guess it was at that point there, I obviously I love doing normal 75-foot freestyle, but I always had this, not like a goal, but maybe a bit of a dream to kind of do. I just really liked doing that.
That bigger stuff.
That was kind of the way that Cam's career went towards the end. Like Cam was a great freestyle rider, but he was known for doing double flips and doing, you know, cool things like that. So I guess it was kind of just a natural sort of thing that I wanted to try to do a bit more of that kind of stuff. So
because there's a different mentality, right, to being like a big best trick style guy versus being like the freestyle competitor.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I guess like it's super hard to be able to put a run together. Yeah. Like it's harder, in my opinion, to be able to put together a run with all the biggest tricks. Like I think it's harder to do that, but I don't know. I just kind of liked the idea of it. I just got a really good thrill out of like the planning, you know, to do something like that, you know, the planning and the preparation and how to do it, and then trying to figure out how to tackle it and kind of going from there. And then it was kind of just like a natural reaction, really. I did my first double flip to dirt at the AusX Open in 2000. Yeah, so that was cool. And then I was actually on a borrowed bike. It was one of Toddy. I didn't know Todd Waters at the time, but it was one of his old DPH.
Yeah, right.
I rode a KTM, but my KTM was stuck overseas. I couldn't get it back, and I still never got it back. It's still stuck in America.
What?
Yeah, but
whereabouts?
It's at Travis's house.
Oh, okay. So you know where it is.
It's moldy, and it's like we can put it up on the wall maybe one day. But I was funny because I borrowed. Yeah, it was a DPH. It was a practice bike. It was a Husky. It had like 150 hours. And I remember the clutch.
Easy hours though.
Yeah, I remember I went to do practice and the like the slave cylinder hydraulic clutch went, so I had no clutch. And then we fixed that, then I had no front brake. And then I'm like, fuck it, then my first double flip here. I'm like, all sorts of shit. But then it was cool, landed it sweet, and that was an awesome time. And then it wasn't long after that, me and Cam were down the Mornington Peninsula having a beer. I think it was his birthday or something, and we were just like, just a bit of general chit chat. And he's like, "Hey," because I was getting doubles around fairly easily. Like I could easily over rotate them if I wanted into a foam pit. And then I started like doing a double, and I was able to tap the brake and kind of brake check it in. And yeah, we were just carrying on bullshit. And he's like, "Hey, you should try a triple." And I was like, "Yeah," like, yeah. And then that was kind of it. And then the next day, I called him. I'm like, "You serious? Are you reckon?" And he goes, "Yeah, fuck, why not?" And I was like, fuck it, all right, let's, yeah. And this was just in 2019. So
Sheeny had already done it, right? On the...
Yeah, actually, no, maybe this was in 2000. No, I think, no, you know what? This was in 2018 because that's the reason my bike was in America, because I'd actually just been at Pastrana Land for my first go at trying to do a triple. That was before the AusX Open. So that's the reason I had no bike, because my bike was stuck there. So I guess this is in 2018. So I remember I had I just drew a ramp on a piece of paper with the rough sort of dimensions. And then my good friend and sponsor, Josh Glynn from Freeform Action Sports, he built this ramp for me, him and his crew. And yeah, we just set this thing out. It was just like a bit bigger than a super kicker, basically. And, you know, now looking back on it, it was certainly not the right ramp. But, like, I didn't know. I had no idea. But I just set the thing up into the foam pit at Sinclair's, and I was just having a good old tug on it. And then it was good, though. Like, my first ever time on a ramp that's, even now, if I tried it, I probably wouldn't get much further, you know. But I was sort of getting like 2.5-ish, you know. It was a good 2.5.
Which equals landing on your head, basically.
Yeah, but it was like a good way to get my feet wet with, you know, and like, as I said, the ramp, it was nowhere near big enough. Like, no way. Like, it was not like a moon booter. Like, it was nowhere near.
Yeah, really?
Nah, it was a tiny bit bigger than a super kicker. But we were just like, fuck, I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to have a go at it. And then I kind of was, you know, that was sort of all I thought about was like ways to do it. But I didn't have any sponsors or anyone, no money or funding to kind of help out.
Yeah, so what are you doing at this point? Like, you're going to Travis's, you're doing that whole deal, you're you're like, you know, AusX Open doing double flips. Like, where's the financial backing coming from? Like, are you just working and funding the shit yourself, or?
Yeah. So all that time, like in Melbourne, so I guess I first started working when I was like 14. I started going just after school because I didn't have, so my old man didn't live there, so I didn't really have much of an idea on how to work on bikes. Yeah. So, because I didn't really have anyone sort of coaching me. So I found out Steve Powell from SPMX.
Yeah.
So Powell, he lived
Legend.
in the same estate, and he was working from home. He'd just gone out on his own and
started
I
remember that
SP Motorsport at the time.
Yeah.
So I figured out where he lived, and I went around and knocked on his door one day, and I just said, "Hey mate, I'm Jo. Can I basically come around and sweep the floors and I don't want to get paid, but I just want to like know how to do some things so I can figure it out, so we don't have to pay someone to change the oil and shit." Like, I just didn't know. I was like 14 or whatever. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And then Powley was like, "Yeah, sweet." So I just started doing that, and then I reckon it was like, I think it was like my second day. He had me, I relaced a set of wheels for Chase Mosick, and then it was like my second week, I was tearing down suspension and like learning how to revalve it, and I kind of just got into it straight away, and I really, like, I had sort of good attention to detail with you know, shims and with settings and stuff, and I just started really enjoying that. So I just kept doing that, and I did that for 8 years with Powley. And then when I had these bigger dreams to do bigger shit that I needed more money for, I had to kind of look at other options. I needed to make some more money. So I got into construction then. And then my goal was to kind of get on the railways where you can make good cash. So I started doing that. So I'd work, we'd do like 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. So we'd do 12 hours on site every day. So that was when I was getting up at like every morning for a good couple of years, 3 years almost. I was getting up at 3 a.m, going and training, and then I'd go home and have a shower and brekkie and that, and then I'd go to our yard, get in a truck, and then drive a truck up to the other side of town, and then I was working. So it was like the Metro Tunnel, all the underground rail network. Yeah. So I started doing that, and that's where there was obviously more money coming in. And like it was taking up a lot of time, obviously, because I didn't really have much time to ride. But I was in Melbourne and it was raining a lot anyway. So I was like, if I can hook in and make try to save some money, then it can, when the weather's better or whatever, it can allow me to be able to, you know, go and spend this money making new ramps and all that kind of stuff. So, and then it was funny actually. I listened to the podcast you did with Colby. And he was talking about working 2 jobs, and I almost had to laugh to myself, and I'm like, fuck, that's so cool that he did that, because I was doing the same shit. So I was doing, so we're doing like our 12 hours on site, plus it was like an hour each way for travel. So you sort of 14 hours there. And then I'd normally get home at so I'd start work we're doing a lot of night shifts then. So I'd start at 7 p.m. I'd work through till 7 a.m. And then by the time I'd get home, it'd be about 8:30. So I'd have to drop the truck off at the yard, then drive home, and then I'd go straight to the gym at like 9 a.m. I'd train for like 40 minutes or something, and then I'd go home and sleep for probably 4 hours, and then I'd get up and then get dressed in me work clothes to go do suspension. And I'd go I'd do like maybe 5 hours, 4 or 5, between 4 and 6 maybe, depending on what we had going on. And then I'd change into my my night shift work gear, the fluoros, and then I'd drive back to the other side of town and then do another 12 hours. So I think I was working like 16 to 18 hours a day, and I was sleeping where I could in between. And then I was sort of just like, I was just trying to make some money. I was like, I didn't have any sponsors. So where's the money going to come from? You got to go and have a crack at it. So I was doing that for a while, and like it was pretty hard. Like I'd always, every few weeks I'd be run down and be crook as a dog, because I was still going to the gym and all this shit
still
in between.
Training.
But I wanted to, because at the end of the day, I wasn't working to make it big in construction. I was working to make some money to fund the things I want to do on my bike. So the training, to me, it was just as important as making money. So I'm not going to not train. Like, I've got to keep doing that shit. So anyway, I just worked my ass off and kind of made some money, and then that was where I could try to go and spend whatever money I had. I'd just put it straight into bikes and or not necessarily the bikes, but like more like ramps and building things, because you can build a ramp, it can cost you $3 or $4 grand, and it's like, oh, it's not, and that's for a small ramp. Bigger ramps you spend 10 grand, and it's like, oh, it's not very good. And it's like, oh, well, there's 10 grand. Like it took me fucking 2 months to make, like, or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's kind of how I funded it all. But then, yeah, so back to the first time I tried the triple into the foam pit, it was 2018. And then I was super keen on it, but I didn't really know, what I needed. I didn't know, no one in Australia really had, like back then, I don't think anyone really had airbags or big ramps or anything. So I was like thinking, like, what can I do? And I believed I could do it. So that was a big motivation for me. So I didn't really know Travis Pastrana at this point. I had met him a couple of times, but I was, because he wasn't on all the tours, but every now and then he'd be there. But he's a busy guy, and I was a young kid. We'd walk past each other in the hallway and wave, but like we weren't mates basically. But I remember I was at work. I was actually at like a shit farm, like where they recycle waste, and I was in a suit, and I was in a like a tank, literally with
full of shit.
Yeah, it was shit day, if you could say that. And I remember I reached out to Greg Duffy, the guy who did the double fronty. So I was friends with Duffy from some of the tours. And I hit him up for
he's a G.
He's a legend, yeah. So shout out to Duffy, because he kind of helped me get all this stuff sorted. But I messaged him on Insta, and I'm like, hey man, I told him what I wanted to do, and I sent him some footage, and I just said, like, is there any way I can get in contact with Travis, like WhatsApp or email or something? And he's like, yeah man. He gave me Travis's email. And then right there and then I took me shitty gloves off, and I sent Travis an email, and I just sort of introduced myself. I've actually got these screenshots on my phone, which are pretty cool. It's cool to look back on. But I emailed Travis, and I sent him through the footage of doing sort of 2.5 off like a shit ramp, and not a shit ramp, but a ramp that wasn't good for that particular trick. It was a great ramp, but not for that. And I sent him through, this is what I want to do. And at the time, because I didn't have any money to put into it and stuff, and I had this idea, and I still think to this day that it would work, but I was like, maybe I can just build, I actually looked at like hiring a heap of scaffold, and I was going to build like a 3 meter high like run-in basically, and I was going to have my ramp, that exact ramp, sit 3 meters high
off the ground,
and I wanted to do a triple flip step down, because with that extra, it would have 100% would have worked, I reckon, and still to this day I think it would work. But that wasn't my idea of this is easier.
It's just what you could do.
It was my idea of like, I actually looked into getting scaff, and it was the sort of thing that I could afford to do on my own, and I believed that it could have worked because I didn't have the airbags and all the other stuff to make it happen. And I just sent Trav this thing and whatever, and
he was like, no, don't do that.
But I said to him, I'm like, I basically I just asked him if I could, go and go over to Pastrana Land and kind of use his facilities, because we didn't have anything like that in Australia at the time. And look, to be honest, I didn't expect the reply from Travis, because he's a busy guy, and what's the chances of him seeing that? Like, he probably gets 1,000 emails per day. But I was cool with that. I was totally cool if he didn't reply, because I didn't actually expect him to. But you don't know unless you try. Like I say, you got to have a crack at something. So I did that, and then I was back to work. And then no shit, it was like probably a couple of hours later he wrote back, and I was like, fucking hang on boys, tools down. Travis Pastrana's just sent me an email. This is fucking sick.
Yeah.
And he basically just wrote back, hey Joe, blah blah blah, and he's like, yeah, I think the step down idea would work, but it's like really dangerous, like, because we want to do a step up, so you fall from your peak height as much, and which I already understood, but it was more of a money sort of thing. But he's like, mate, he goes, I'll be home between whatever months it was. He sent me his address, and he goes, come over, I'll see you then. And I'm like, holy shit,
that easy.
I'm like, I was like, this is obviously, because he knew I was motivated to do it, and I don't know, he was just like, it was just so cool of him. Like, he did not have to do that. And I can't say this enough. I couldn't, you can't speak more highly of someone like Travis, because he didn't have to help me. He didn't have to reply to me. And I wouldn't have been mad. I still would have loved him and thought he was the coolest person ever, because he is. But the fact that he did,
I got goosebumps,
and he said, and he's like, yeah, come over. So I'm like, fuck, this is sick. So basically, I think it was so it was obviously it was before the AusX in 2019. So I think it was September. I was over there, and this was whenever this was. There was about 3 months before, because it was like, yeah, man, I'm going to be home, and I think it was about 3 months away. So all I did for the next 3 months, I didn't ride my motorcycle once. All I did was fucking hook in and work, because I'm like, I gotta save some money, because I need to. It's not just flights and stuff. I'm like, do I buy a bike there and use it for a week, and then, or do I send a bike? So there was a few different things I had to come up with, and then like,
did you end up sending it?
Yeah, so I sent my bike.
How much did that cost?
I think it cost me. I think it was meant to be all up $4,500.
Yeah.
To get it back, but the dude that I sent it with, it was a company, but he didn't fill out some of the paperwork in Australia. So I gave it to him, gave him the money, and it was meant to go there and back. But then it went there, and he didn't fill out the right. It turned up a week late, and it went to New York. So I had to hire a car and drive to New York.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So me and my brother drove to New York. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing, and then they wouldn't hand it over because he didn't fill out the right paperwork. And we ended up getting it, but then I couldn't get it home. So yeah, it cost me $4,500, but I didn't get it home. So it was like,
that's insane.
But yeah, so I just worked. I was just working flat out leading up to that for like 3 months, doing like days and nights and all sorts. But I was like, I did not have a care in the world, because I'm like,
you knew you were going to be.
I'm going to go, yeah. And I didn't even care that I wasn't riding. Like, I didn't give a shit, because I knew what I wanted to do, and I just needed to have some money to be able to do that. So, sent my bike and everything, and then when I went over there, like, I literally hadn't ridden not a single thing, not once, not a track, not a ramp, nothing for 3 months. But I'm glad I did work, because that trip ended up costing me $25,000, because there was a lot of other things that came up in between. Like, I went through 15 sets of handlebars in a week, and that because they were bending on the up ramp. Because so when I went there, Travis, the ramp that Josh Sheehan used, that wasn't around anymore. That was for one thing, and then that was done. It wasn't even on the property. It was done. So I didn't know what ramp I was using. I didn't care.
So this was all to try the triple?
Yeah.
So you hadn't even landed the double at this point?
Nah, not to dirt. I've done it to an airbag landing, and I could do them into a foam pit and stuff. And like, I had ridden out of them, but I hadn't done it to dirt. But I'm like, I'm going. Like, I'm doing it.
So you wanted to do the triple was more important than the double?
Yeah, way more. So yeah, sort of. I was going in completely blind. I didn't know what ramp I was using. I didn't know how fast. I didn't know what gearing I needed on the bike. I didn't know what it looked like. He didn't mention it. I had no idea. So I remember pulled up to his house. I went over with my brother, and we stayed in. We flew into BWI, Baltimore, Washington International.
Yeah.
And then we got in pretty late, so I didn't want to rock up at Travis's house late at night. So we got like a shitty hotel, and it was like, dude, it was in the full Baltimore, in the full ghetto. Like, it was mad. There was a dude trying to buy a hotel room. He had like 5 coins. He's trying to get a room. Yeah, like, it was just dodgy. I was like, fuck, I didn't want my gear bag to get stolen.
Yeah,
I pretty much didn't sleep, because I was like, this is fucking so dodgy.
Dude, there's some wild joints there.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. But then so we rocked up at Travis's the next day, and mate, I was like,
how nervous were you pulling up to the gates?
I actually wasn't nervous, but I was so excited. I can still remember the excitement I had to this day, because when we were pulling up, I remember it was like I was turned left in 2 miles and that was his driveway, and I was just like, I couldn't fucking believe it. And I was like, and the best thing is that even though I hadn't been there, I felt like I knew what it looked like. Yeah. I knew his whole property just from like videos and Nitro Circus movies and that. So it was like, when I rocked up, I was like, I already know what it looks like. But when we rocked up, no one was there. So he gave me the gate codes, let myself in. I was just cruising around, and then he rocked up like hours later. I was just like cruising around, having a look at stuff. And I walked out the back, and the ramp that I thought, the ramp I thought I was going to be jumping, like, I just looked at it and I just presumed that must be what I'm jumping. It was actually the ramp that Jed Milton did a quad flip off.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like this skinny, and it was like massively tall. And I was like, oh, sweet. That's obviously it. Like,
yeah.
I'm all right, let's do it. Like, I was stoked. I thought it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And then I found out that obviously wasn't the ramp, it was BMX ramp. But then he rolled up, and then we got this ramp sort of set up, and then so I had Josh Glynn from Freeform Action Sports over there helping me. So he owns an airbag here in Australia, so he was sort of helping me out, and my brother was there. So with the bike rocked up like a week late, so I couldn't do anything for the first week, so I had to extend the trip a little bit, and then we went to New York, got the bike, had it all set up, and this ramp was it turns out it was actually the ramp that Travis did the Aussie roll to, the double backflip 360. So like fantastic ramp. It was a great, awesome ramp, but not for a triple flip though. Like it was good for a double flip combo or the Aussie roll, but for the triple flip it just wasn't quite enough. But like I did commit to 3. Like I did actually get one around, but it was, you know, I didn't really know where to set the ramp. And the first days of me doing it, Travis wasn't there. It was just me. So like I didn't really know how to do the airbag stuff, how it was meant. I don't think I jumped into one. I might have, but I didn't know where to set it and stuff. And I think I was in second gear still. Anyway, and we set it at whatever, and then I just started.
You're just pissing in the wind.
Yeah, I think my first jump was a double flip just to feel it out. And then it was gnarly. I've got videos, like I've got a helmet cam video, which is cool. The run in, like it wasn't flat, it was up in the woods.
Yeah.
So I was coming down this hill in between trees, and then I'd get onto a flat bit of like flat ground for like 30 feet, and then that was a ramp. So you couldn't see the ramp until you're on it, basically. And I was coming, like hooking in, but I had to hit the ramp so fast to try to go high enough to do 3 that the G-force and everything of me hitting the ramp was like, that's what was bending my handlebars, because I was like G'ing out on this thing so fucking hard and then just pulling. But like in a perfect world to do like a double combo, you'd come in slower and off the ramp. But that I tried that and it wasn't enough, because really it wasn't the best ramp for that trick. But I think by the second day, maybe, or the third day, I sat into it and pulled one round, and technically a bit of an under rotate, but technically it was a triple flip.
Yeah.
And like, cause that's like a lot of people think, cause I've been working on the triples since 2019. A lot of people think like it took me that long to learn.
Yeah.
But that's not the case at all. Like I did it on the third day. I got one around to the front wheel, like got it around. But the reason it took so long is because I had nowhere to do it, like no event, nowhere to do it. When I got back to Australia, I didn't have the same ramps, and I wanted to build the same ramp, but I had no money to do that because I just spent 25 grand. Yeah. But it didn't take me that long to do, but in the way, like in the process of it happening, there was a lot of different things and different ramps and stuff, and it was more so just waiting for an opportunity to do it. I was asking anyone. I was like, I want to do a triple flip. Give me any ramp and something, like I just want to start working. But I didn't have any contacts. I didn't really have anyone to, no one really wanted to help out. So it wasn't that it took me 4 years to learn. Like I learned it on the third day, but it was just a long process of being able to find someone to do it. And then I did finally have a setup where I was going to do it. I was going to do it at Nitro World Games, not this year gone, but the year before, off this crazy big ramp, which is like 8 meters tall, which is what I was doing them on for a fair while. It's what I broke my femur on at the start of the year, but I was going 100 feet high and 65 feet distance. I was third gear, completely fucking wedged off this ramp.
That is psycho.
Going mad, but like I didn't think it was psycho at all at the time. I was like, fuck, this is what we're doing. Like it was, and that's where I really started trying to put on some size, because I was getting so fucking hurt on that thing, but I loved it. Like I was like nothing better than going back to work on a Monday with a black eye and fucking, and then you're working with people on site that are talking about doing wheel stands down the road, and I'm like, I never would say anything, but I fucking loved it. And then that's what was getting me up at 3 a.m. to go train. I'm like, this is fucking sick.
It's like a big demon that you were battling.
Yeah, I just thought it was unreal. But the process, so after, sorry, just to rewind, I'm carrying on a bit here. No. But so after the whole Shineland thing, had an epic time, and like
dude, how good is he as a person?
Oh, he's a legend.
Like he is unbelievably cool.
Couldn't speak more highly of the fella. Like he's just a ripper bloke, just a normal guy, just a dude.
But he's not. He's so generous.
Yeah, but
like he's abnormally. Yeah. He's a normal guy in terms of like the way you interact with him, but he is abnormally generous with people, and like that whole he just gives you the gate code, and that's 100% him, man. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, like I didn't want to have to be a burden to him, and I didn't want to have to rely on him for anything. So he was stoked that I rocked up with my own bike, because other people that go there, they just expect him to get him a bike. I rocked up. I hired a Dodge Ram truck, which, because I was like 19 or something, or 20, it cost me a fortune, because I was like
underage.
Yeah, it cost me a fortune, but like he was already going so far out of his way to help me, and I'm no one, you know, and he's helping me so much. I went and got all my food for, like, I did every single little thing. I was going to a gym. He had a gym at his house, but I didn't want to ask him to use it. I was like paying to go to a gym. I was doing everything I could, because, you know, I just appreciated it so fucking much. Like, it was just so, you know, it was unreal. And then...
but did you end up staying at his joint?
Yeah, so I was going to, like, looking at getting accommodation and that, and he's like, no, you stay here, mate. And I'm like, fuck, this is pretty cool. So, we did that, and, like, it was, I mean, the whole experience was unreal.
And just to have him believe in you.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably worth... like more than 25 grand.
No,
like, for him
more
to
than
believe,
than $1 million, to be honest. I think I don't think like you could put a price on that for me personally.
I completely agree.
I think that's amazing. You know, like, just to have him as a mate now, like, and, you know, I can give him a text or a phone call, and it's like sweet. And I guess that's actually how the Black Rifle deal came about. So that back then he was still with Red Bull, and it was once I got home, it was like after the AusX maybe, but we were in contact, staying in contact still, and he reached out to me, and he's like, oh, I've got a company that wants a freestyle rider. They want to put a helmet on someone, you know, and they didn't have any freestyle riders at this point, and I was like, oh yeah, who's that? And he told me Black Rifle, and I had heard of him because I'd seen him on the Joe Rogan podcast. Evan Hafer, who's one of the owners. And Trav said to me, so he was still with Red Bull, and Trav said to me, he's like, he goes, oh, that's where I'll end up. He goes, I don't know when, but it might be a couple of years, but he goes, that's where I'll end up. And I'm like, fuck, this is pretty cool. So that's kind of how that all came about. That didn't come about for probably another 8 to 12 months, that deal, but that's how the introduction was. So Travis was the one that put me in touch with them and got things happening. And then, so I got home and I did the AusX Open stuff, which was cool. And then I didn't get my motorbike back, and I had to give back the old practice bike to Dale Hocking. So cheers, Dale, for that. And then
another legend of the game.
Yeah, I was pretty hard up the cash. So I just spent me 25 quid. So my brother bought me a bike off Raceline, actually. It was Justin Bell. So it was his. Yeah. They built it for him for Supercross, but then he didn't get a visa, so he couldn't come over or something. So we bought his spare race bike, and then I started hooking in on that. And then at this point, I was still doing all the same shit with work and everything. But then I really started going after the triple hard. And in my head, what I wanted to do this whole time since 2019, was obviously the ramp that Sheeny did it on was enormous, and I could never speak more highly of Sheeny as a person, of a rider, and how ballsy that was. And that was like
crazy,
the craziest thing anyone's ever done, ever, to this day, on a motorcycle. But, you know, what I thought in my head was like that sort of thing can't be replicated. You can't take that to a stadium and do that. It can't be done again. And I just thought there's got to be a way to do, you know, as time goes on and you know, equipment like motorcycles get better and you learn more about ramps, things can go better. You can scale things down and everything. So I always wanted to do it on like a smaller size setup, because, and still right now to this day, I want to do as many as I can. I want to do 100, a million. I want to do them I want to do what Cam Sinclair did with doubles, with triples. So wherever I can do them, I want to do them. So I'm like, I need to do it off a ramp that's smaller, that you know, that I can take to places and do them. So that's where I really started hooking in. And I actually used the first ramp I used for the foam pit, which I did 2.5 off. I got that ramp, and then we made some mods to it. We had it jacked up like 600 mil. We had a Bobcat parked in front of it, so it wouldn't rock forward, and we made a little extension. And then I was working, I think at the time, I was still doing a bit of the rail work, but then I was also working as a brickie. So I was working during the week, and then I was I was hiring an airbag off someone. It was costing me $1,500 for the day. So I'd get the airbag out, and I had to pick it up and drop it off on the same day. And it was a big airbag. It was a bag jump, but it was like a full 40 by 40 footer or whatever. It was a big dog. So it was like hard to pack up and shit, you know. And this is in Melbourne. This is in winter, and I was going out to the property, and we had an old. It was where Cam Sinclair's original compound was, where I did my first backflip and everything.
Yeah.
But there was no longer a compound there because it had to get shut down. But I got I got an excavator, and I was like, I know, because it all got filled in with dirt, and I'm like, I know for a fact that there's an asphalt run up somewhere here, because me and Cam laid that asphalt run up 6 years ago, and I'm like, I know there's a run up. So it was muddy as fuck, like it was so muddy. And I started scratching around, and then I found a bit of, I'm like, yeah, that's it. So I dragged back the dirt, and I had a bit of, it was not a great run up. Like it was pretty, I mean, it'd been sitting under dirt for 6 years and water and shit, but I found that asphalt run up, and then it was so muddy, man. Like, so what we used to do, I used to have the airbag, I'd have tarps and stuff, and I'd get the airbag, I'd hire a car trailer, give him the cash, get the airbag, take it out there, set it up, and then because it was so muddy, I used to have Brett, who owns the property, had a forklift, like one of those Kubota with the big 4-wheel drive wheels. So, and it had like it had a double pallet. So I'd get geared up like out on the driveway, and I'd have my gear and my bike and my stand on the double pallet, and someone would drive me out on the forklift and would drop me off directly on the asphalt. And there was no warm up, no speed checks, no clearing out the bike. I'd just start my bike and rev it up, and the airbag was water all over it, and then on the sides it was like deep in mud, so I couldn't do a warm-up jump. I'm like, all right, so I've just worked 60 hours this week, and I'm spending my whole wage on today. Let's go. Like, let's fucking go. So I just start my bike, rev the fucking tits off it, and psych myself up, punch myself in the head a few times. I'm like, let's go. And I knew I was going to, regardless, I knew I wasn't going to land on two wheels. I was going to get it around to the wheel, like to the front, but then like,
you're taking a hit.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I fucking loved it. I was so stoked. I was like, this is fucking awesome. So I was doing that, and I would do all that, and I'd have my mates out there helping me, and and spending all the money and stuff to do one jump, and I was fucking stoked. And I'd go to work so sore the next day. I'd drop the airbag off on the trailer, drop the trailer back to servo.
So literally one jump. You couldn't do any more.
There was times I could do more, but maybe two, like gurney the tires. Gurney my boots. Like, I'm talking, I've got photos. It was gnarly. It was so muddy, man. Like, it was fucking brutal. Like, it was, anyway, and then like, I loved it. I thought it was so sick, because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't give a shit about anything else. And I'd go to work tired and busted up and sore on Monday, and I'd be doing a 12-hour day, and I fucking loved it. I just thought I'd do it again all week, and then hope to do it on the weekend, And then like a few of my mates were like, fuck, man, like, how long can you keep doing it? Like, you're really beating yourself up. Like, one time I got knocked out for like, I don't know, like 6 minutes or something. And Cam Sinclair, he was real worried, because I was like,
he's had head injuries.
Yeah, and I was like, I've been knocked out heaps of times as well, and I was doing some weird shit, and I kept asking the same questions for like hours and hours. And I went home. I didn't even go to the hospital, but then I ended up, one of my mates picked me up and took me to the hospital. But like, because I had my foot hooked under the gear shifter and the rear brake, so I double hook, and I think something happened, and I actually went to eject, and then my foot was still hooked under the shifter. So as I've jumped off the bike, my boot and the gear shifter has pulled the bike down back so fast, and the swing arm landed on my head and cracked the whole helmet and everything, and that's what like fully KO'd me. So I might have had like 2 weeks off and then got back into it. But a few of my mates were like, man, like how long, like, can you, what else can you do? Like, is there another way? And I'm like, no. And I remember saying to Josh Freeform, I said, mate, I ain't giving up, because I know I can do it. And I said, you believe, like, you work hard. I'm like, someone somewhere is going to notice this. Someone will. And I might get a chance to ride it at a different place, or go somewhere where it's not muddy, or be able to do a few jumps, or have a better ramp. I was like, you got to keep going. You have to keep going. So I just kept doing it, and no one really knew, because I didn't really have much going on as far as like sponsors or anything. I had great help from friends, and which I appreciate so much, but I didn't really have much else happening. And then I guess as I kept going and kept working, like I kept hoping would happen, and I believed would happen. Someone would sort of notice, and then that's when Nitro, and I was getting the triples around on that sort of setup, and then that's where Nitro did notice, and they put a little bit of budget into me doing them on this massive ramp. So Travis and his crew, I think it was Nate Wessel and Travis and a few other dudes, put together these specs of this massive ramp, and they sent them out, and we went and had it built. I think it cost like 10 grand because it was such a big ramp.
And did they pay for that?
Yeah, they so Josh Glynn from Freeform, he built this thing, him and his crew, and he paid for all the materials, and then Nitro reimbursed him whenever that was. And I hadn't seen this ramp because Joshy lived in Phillip Island, and I was like in the southeast in Vic, so it was a couple of hours. I hadn't been out there and seen it, but I was like so keen, and Josh was sending me photos every day, and that. And he's like, man, this, because it's built in 3 pieces. Like you need a crane to put it together. It's that big. Like an excavator, nowhere can reach. Like it's huge. And he's like, man, these things are like big. And I was so fucking pumped. I was like, make it bigger. I was like, I love it. And then we hired a in Ararat, Victoria. Do you remember Lewis Stewart?
Yeah,
he used to race. Yeah. So his parents' property.
So I used to, when I moved from Cairns, I moved to Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I lived in Geelong with Subby from Stroke. I don't know if you
remember. So
I lived with him in Geelong.
Yeah.
We used to take the train into North Melbourne every day and back. And I worked for Konski.
Yeah.
And then on the weekends I used to go stay at Ararat at his parents' farm and
So you've been there?
Yeah,
no way. So we hired a piece of their land.
Yeah, right. And cold as fuck.
Yeah, there's nothing to do there.
Just rabbits.
It's a weird place, Ararat. There's a jail there, and it's where they send the real weirdos, like mentally ill. Like it's a real weird joint. So we started going there. So that was like I think it was a 3-hour drive maybe for me. And so we'd go out there, and we hired a piece of the land, like rented it sort of thing, leased it, and then we hired a digger.
So why there?
Just because anywhere closer to home, like you couldn't physically do it with council, and I was believe me, I was trying to find somewhere closer, but I reached out to heaps of people, and no one was like, but it was awesome of Lewis Stewart. So my mate Josh from Freeform Action Sports, his little boy Rocky, who at the time was like 5 years old or something, he was being coached by Lewis Stewart. Like he was doing coaching and stuff, and I think Joshy, was just talking about our plans and stuff, and then Lewis Stewart really helped us out, and he's like, oh well, fuck, we've got like so much land in Ararat that doesn't get used, and there's no one there. Like, no one's going to complain. Like, literally no one's there. So so that's kind of how it came about. Like we had looked at doing some things at places that were close to it, and it just never worked out. So I'm like, all right, we'll do that. So we went out there and we hired a digger. I think we had like a 20-ton digger, and Josh's brother Sammy, he's a whiz in an excavator. So we went out there and we scoped out the paddock, and there was like a hill with some like slight elevation. Like it didn't look like much, but what we wanted to do was, because this ramp is enormous, we wanted to like dig it in
a little bit so that it
have a step up sort of. And Josh just had a good eye. He's like, that hill looks like it'd be good, and I didn't think it had enough pitch. Like I thought it was, but I don't know as much as him. Like those guys are so good at what they do. So we had this gnarly run in, like this gnarly trench dug. Like it is huge, man. And we had it dug. Sammy had it dug in a day, and then we drove home and then back to work for the week. And Joshy's running his concrete business, and then the next weekend we come out with a crane truck. It would have been a couple of weeks, because we had to get the parts of the ramp delivered there over a period of weeks, because it was like it's a 3-hour drive each way, and you can only fit one piece on the truck. So it was a couple of weeks. But then once it was all there, we went out with the crane truck and we had the ramp set up. We erected all the ramp, and then Joshy poured a concrete slab and everything out there for the ramp to sit on, and we bolted the thing to the concrete. And then another weekend we'd take out the airbag and set that up. So it was like a period of a couple of months of hard work basically, and money going into it. So we got out there, and this ramp, like Travis just designed this thing. It's never been jumped. He didn't say, oh, you should jump it in this gear at this gap. Well, I had no idea, man. Like, no idea. But I was so I was jumping out of my skin how fucking keen I was. Like, I was like, and then, we had this bad boy set up, and, And then like Travis said, I think we were on like a bit of a group email, and because I was just out there on my own, me and one mate, that was it. And he was sort of like, fuck, that thing's pretty big. Like he was kind of leaning towards having it up close and jumping it in second gear, just doing a straightie. And I'm like, nah, I'm not fucking doing that, because the way that we dug the like the trench and the run up, like the airbag couldn't be hard up.
Yeah,
I can't do that. But I'm like, I don't want to. The things it was called the third gear ramp. I'm like, it's a third gear ramp, so I don't want to jump it in second and then have to adjust things. Like, I'll just jump it in third gear. I'll just set it up. We'll just fucking set it up where it is, and I'll just hit the thing fast enough to land on the airbag. It's simple.
Yeah.
And then so we set it like the distance to the middle of the bag was 65 feet, I think. And but I kind of didn't know if the ramp was going to send me straight up or if it was going to send me like that. So I went up. The day of doing it, I went up with my iPhone and I stood like on the side of the ramp and I was holding my iPhone at the angle of the kicker, and I'm like, oh, it does look like I'm going to go distance, not just straight up. So I think, we set it it's like 65 feet to the center of the bag, and I had a 110 meter run up or something, and I just started shifting gears and hit the thing third pin like so fast, and I landed perfectly on the logo in the middle of the
Really?
bag. Yeah, it was sick. So we've got a little doco that's been, like, Nitro's put a little doco together of all this, so I'll have to send you some stuff. But it was cool. Like, and then my very next jump, I did a straight jump to start off because I wanted to see what it was like, and also to test the pressure of the airbag because I hadn't jumped that high yet to an airbag, so we were kind of testing a few things. And then my very next jump, I did a double flip, and then I think... Fuck, it was not long, like, I don't know. I think I just did a bit that first day. So I did a couple doubles, and we went back and stayed at the little motel in town, and looking over footage and stuff. And then the next day, I think I did a triple flip, and then I sent back the footage in this group email, and they were like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" Because they're like, Nitro wanted me to go and test the jump and just like jump it just to see if it worked. Like they didn't even think I was gonna like do any flipping or anything. It's like they just wanted to see what it was like and if the airbag and everything worked. And I was like, well, that's kind of what I've come here to do. Like I wanted to have a go at it. So I've got to go back to work tomorrow. Like I made the most of it while I'm here. But then that kind of continued on, and I didn't get to ride it very often, but then like I did get a few really good sessions in, and Sheeny come and rode it once with me, which was so much fun, and it was cool. Like we played around, like we were jumping this thing, and literally from the ground, from where the ramp sits, we were going 100 feet, so it was super high. But Sheeny did the craziest thing I've ever seen. Sheeny did an upright holy grab, like that, into a double grab off this ramp. It was fucking mental, and then we were doing like turn ups. So we're leaving the ramp like dead straight. You don't want to carve off that thing, but we're going dead straight. Then once we're in the air, you just feel like you're just weightless. You can just move your bike, and we're doing like turn ups off this thing. And anyway, so that was the plan, and we were using that at World Games. And we had bag jump in Europe. We designed a landing. So me, Sheeny, and Travis were sort of working together, just over all the footage and emails and stuff, and we figured out the landing. So the landing was going to be 10 meters tall. It was going to be 15 meters wide at the top, and then 20 meters wide at the bottom. So it was going to kind of go out like that. I can't remember the exact angle, but the angle was pretty steep. It was really steep, like really steep. And but like I was doing them, like I was doing them easy, like not easy, but I was doing them like no worries. Like once I figured it out, I was like, I wouldn't jump it for 4 months, because we then needed an ambulance to be there with Nitro for safety, and then like that cost money. And so like I wanted to just go there every weekend, but like it was sometimes 4 months, 3, 4, 5 months. So like I wouldn't ride it for 5 months, and I'd go back, and my very first jump of the day, and we've got all this stuff documented, my very first jump of the day, I'd do a perfect triple flip. But at this point, I wasn't allowed to tell anyone or show anyone.
Yeah.
So I'd been doing this for so long, but not allowed to show anyone. And it was kind of killing me, because I was still just going to work on the Monday, and like I still didn't really have any sponsors at this point. And like I had some people, like friends and stuff, that helped me out and give me some little cash here and there. And
so what was Nitro telling you at this point?
They just said, you can't do it. We're gonna release like I had to sign something so I wouldn't tell people. And was like, we're gonna unleash it at World Games in 2021, or maybe it was even before that, and I got canned with. It was even before that.
Might have been 2020.
It was 2020. No, it was 2020 World Games.
Yeah.
We're going hard at 2020 World Games.
Yeah.
And then that got canned with COVID. I was like fired up. I was so spewing because I was so ready to do it, and I'd been training, and I'd been doing them really good. And
like, it's kind of like this one thing that you've been working towards.
Yeah,
and you
so
can do it.
I was spewing that happened, and then anyhow, I just kind of kept going. But so that after that, because I was like, fuck, I can finally tell everyone in 2020, and it's gonna be, this will be mad, and it would have looked pretty spectacular off that ramp because it is so big, and then so Nitro like, look, we're gonna do it next year. I'm sorry, you got to wait another 12 months, but we've already got all this amazing filming by Arnie and Taz, who they run like Willy's YouTube. They live in the sunny coast, so they've got all this sick footage of everything, and we're gonna like release like a little video series leading up to World Games, blah blah blah, and then they canned it, and then it wasn't gonna happen at World Games, and they just wouldn't do it. It's too dangerous or something. And I called Travis, and I'm like, mate, the fuck's going on here? I'm like, you got to back me up, man. Like, this is all I care about. It's all I want to do. And then Travis is like, yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. Travis is like, they were like, oh, no one else will jump it. So, and I'm like, I said, don't put me in the competition. I don't want to be part of the competition. I don't want a trophy. I said, just have me as an expedition, like, or a half time at World Games.
Yeah,
like, just put me in it, because I've just spent so much time and money, and not only that, I don't care about that, but I want to do it
it's
so
like
bad.
Just your goal.
And I'm like, just set me up in the car park. I don't care. Set me up somewhere. And then Travis has never jumped this thing. Travis is like, hey, I'll come over and jump it. Then there's two of us. I won't do a triple flip, but he's like, I'll jump it. I'll do a double flip KOD. And I'm like, he's got me back. He's a mad dog. And then anyhow, and then it wasn't happening. And then I started like phone calling like all the big dogs at Thrill and Action Sports and Nitro Circus, and I'm like sending them so much footage, and I'm like, I will do it. Like, let's figure out how we can do it. And then they changed a bunch of shit. Like they were being positive towards it, but I had to really, if I didn't kind of kick their ass about it, it wouldn't have happened. So I just kept on them. And then we got like a layout of the Suncorp Stadium for the 21 World Games, which didn't go ahead. And then like I needed to cut the run up shorter by like a fair bit, like 20 or 30 meters or something. And they're like, oh, you won't be able to do it. And I said, no, I'll be able to do it. I said, what we'll do is I'll go out to the compound. If you can like organise ambos or whatever to be there, I'm happy to do it without it. But if you organise that, and I said, me and Josh will mark exactly where we needed to go, and we'll shovel a berm out of dirt. We'll build a berm, and I'll come on a 45-degree angle, and I'll hit a berm in second. Then I'll click third and hook both feet and do a triple. And they're like, "Oh, you think?" And I'm like, "No, we'll make it work.
Figure it out.
It'll work." And then we went and did that, and it worked, and it was sweet. And did it for like first go, did it, and then they're like, "Fuck, this guy really wants to do this." And then anyway, that shit didn't go ahead. And then I was, I'm like, fuck, I was getting pretty. Not frustrated with anyone in particular, but just with the circumstances.
Yeah, the situation.
And then I'm like, and at this point, I still can't tell anyone. I'm not allowed to tell. Like, I really wanted to try to reach out to like some,
because you can't get sponsors.
Yeah, and I'm still doing a normal job, and I don't really have much going on, And I just not that working a normal job's bad, because I still, to this day, I still work a normal job, but I just wanted a little bit of help, not necessarily money in my bank account, but just to go towards some other things, because I wasn't riding at all. I'd work like fuck, and then I'd go out there on the weekend and haven't ridden for however long, and which is fine. I'm glad it worked out as it did anyway. But anyway, then I was going to do it on tour, on the Nitro tour, and then that was this year, I think, because didn't go ahead. So I was going to do it on tour this year, and that was all sort of set up. And then, start of the year, it was like Feb maybe. I was doing some back then. So the Ararat lease had ended, so we had to fill that in, flatten all that out, and then I was searching for another place to do it. And then I went and set it up at Jacko's place, and the ramp's actually still there at Jacko's, and then I ended up breaking my femur, snapped my femur, doing like landing on the airbag, and then that was a fucking pretty bad one actually. Like obviously a femur is bad, but man, that thing hurt so much. Hey, I was like screaming, like I've had a lot of injuries, like any motocross or freestyle rider has, but that one for me was a killer.
To snap that bone.
Yeah,
hectic,
and my
bro.
leg was sort of it wasn't compound, but the bone was certainly like facing it was pointing against the skin, and my lower leg was kind of facing the wrong way, and it was hurting like so much, and Jacko was there, and Jacko's like, we got to get that thing straight, because I think if you leave it can cut off your blood or something. I think it can be a disaster. So and I was laying on the airbag, and I had my old man was there, and I was like fucking squeezing him. Like, his arm was in so much pain, and they were trying to, but like my quad muscle had
locked
on,
yeah.
and they couldn't they were fighting against. It was just they were fighting against the muscle basically, and there was a paramedic there, just like not an ambo, but like a paramedic on site. And then they would give me some sort of muscle relaxer. I don't know what it was, but like they could like legally only give me a dose every like 2 minutes. So they'd give me one, and they'd have a stopwatch, and then it's like 2 minutes. Yep, give me another one. And they did it like 4 or 5 times, and then finally like they were just wrestling against me, and I was like going white. I was trying to tap out. I'm like, this is fucked.
Yeah, dude.
And like I had like super strength from my adrenaline. I was like laying on my back, and I was just squeezing my old man's his hand that hard. I like started like lifting him up. Like I was in so much pain, man. And then they got it sort of straight. Like Jacko was literally straightening my leg for me. And then
he's a mad dog.
Yeah, it wasn't even freaked out. Like it was just another day in the office.
So he's a proper man.
Yeah. And then anyhow, then we jumped in the and then an ambo did arrive, and then it was like so we're in Lockhart, and we went to Wagga Hospital and had the surgery there and stuff. And then that was actually pretty brutal there too, because the Wagga Hospital, there's kind of not much going on. It's pretty quiet, smaller town, and like the rod that they put in your femur or in your tib fib or whatever. So they didn't have any, which was kind of weird. The hospital didn't have any, so I just presumed they would have like put me in an ambo and take me to Sydney. But they, instead of doing that, they just had me in traction. So they had like a weight tied to my ankle, so to pull the bones apart. And they kept saying, "Oh, it's all right. You're gonna go into traction. It's gonna feel unreal." And I didn't know what traction was, and I'm like, I can't wait till we do this, because they're saying it's going to feel awesome. And I was like, it was hurting, and then they come out with a rope and like a drink bottle, like a big, like the sort of thing you piss in, full of water, and it goes up over the bed, and they've tied it. And I'm thinking, what? This is the thing that's going to make me feel better. And they've done it, and they're like, "Oh, how much better does it feel?" And I'm like, "No, that literally feels horrible. Like, that sucks. That is not better."
Yeah.
And then anyway, they had someone drive in like an ambo drive to Sydney to get they call it a nail, but like a rod for the leg. And you'd think they'd probably grab a few, because they come in all shapes and sizes. And the dude just come back with one.
What a fuck!
And it was the right like length, obviously, because they measure that, but it's the width, because it's got to go inside.
Yeah.
And once they sort of got me cut open and apart, they figured it was too thick. So then they had because I gave my phone to the surgeon too, so they took a bunch of photos, because I wanted it for like
document the whole thing.
just to have. And they had like a drill, just looked like a Makita drill, and it had a 300mm long drill bit. But just
so
like
they bored it out.
But it was not like a big drill bit. That was like an 8mm, and they were doing these ones like that.
Fuck
but
off.
In the process of that, they snapped another part of my femur, like another piece snapped off, and they got this sucker in there. But anyway, so it was like there was a fair bit of shit going on. But they had to tell me that, because when I go get my follow-up X-ray, it's like, oh, hang on, it's broken in another spot now. So then,
are you serious?
Yeah, but because it is what it is. It was sweet.
Fuck.
But then, then my old man, he drove me. Like he got out of the surgery, and like they weren't really giving me anything for pain. Like they were, but not like very minimal, because they kind of don't do that in Australia. But then I had to, my old man had to drive me from Wagga Hospital to the Gold Coast, because I just moved to the Goldie. And I was like, after the surgery, that's a shit drive,
bro.
It was like I don't know, 14 hours or something. It was rough as.
No.
And then I got back, and I was kind of just on the couch for a bit. But then like I started back in the gym like after 2 weeks, maybe post-surgery, just on crutches. Because at the start, it was so sore, I couldn't really do much. But then, sort of got that better. And then it's like, all right, well, fucking, what are we... World Games coming up.
So that cancelled the...
So that cancelled...
So was that in Feb this year?
Yeah. Yep.
No shit.
Yeah, so that was... It might have been... Yeah, it was the end of Feb. So
yeah.
March almost, I think. So then I sort of just started doing that, doing the recovery, and I was back working, doing suspension. So I was working at Raceline while I was in the moon boot and shit. And that was sketchy because it was like always oil and stuff on the ground. I'm like crutching around. You know, I didn't want to trip over. But so I was back doing that, and then still doing my training and doing the physio and just doing all the stuff to try to get better. But it did take a while. It probably took longer than I expected. Everyone else says like it was an amazing turnaround, which I'm sure it was. But for me, it felt like it was going for ages, like just the pain and stuff. But so then I was like, all right, well, World Games is coming up again. And I just sort of started jumping 75 a bit. And then I didn't know they cancelled the big ramp because it's too dangerous and stuff, and that was never going to happen anymore. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll figure it out. I'm regardless of what happens, I'm doing a triple flip because it's been 3 years of like being able to do it, but I haven't been allowed.
Yeah.
Anyway,
trying
and then
to make it happen.
Yeah, I started sort of riding again, and then my bike hit neutral on the lip, just on a normal jump on 75, but I was jumping to a portable lander. And I've never, in my whole riding life, I've never had that happen. It was so random because there's a video of it and my foot's nowhere near the gear shifter, like at all. And anyway, so then I broke my collarbone and that was just before. So I had surgery there. But then I was in the gym 2 days later and training and that. And I rode like 7 days later. But at this point, I'd actually never jumped a moon booter. I jumped ramps similar, but I'd never jumped a moon booter ramp. And I double flipped the moon booter. Around this is like 4 weeks before World Games, and they were asking me what I'm doing because you got to submit your trick, and I said I'm doing a triple flip.
And they're like, what?
They're like, what ramp? And I said, I don't have it figured out yet, but I made out like I did. Like I made out like I knew what was going on, which in my head I did, but I just didn't have all the resources and the pieces together yet. But so I double flipped the moon booter, and I did have a backup. Like I did a double flip. Like Superman Indy off it, like just as a backup, just in case. But I'm like,
you're not doing it.
That's worst case. Yeah, like I'd rather. I actually said to my brother, I'm like, if they don't let me do a triple, I ain't going.
Yeah,
I'm not going in the competition. I'll stay at home.
Yeah.
So anyway, but then I'm like, damn, the moon booter's got a lot of potential. Like it's a sick ramp. Like the thing's so good.
So you jumped that at Harry's the first time?
Yeah. So that was like maybe 4 weeks before or something.
Wait, can I stop for a piss?
Yep.
And then we'll fully rip into that bit.
Yep.
We we're talking about the moon booter. So so you'd moved up to the Goldie.
Yep.
What was the thinking there?
Basically the thinking was like in Melbourne, as you'd know, the weather's
fucked.
The weather sucks, and you know, like I was kind of the only one doing freestyle there. Like Sinclair and Bilko, like Bilko's in the States, Sinclair's he's sort of come back out of retirement now. He's getting a bit keen again, but like he wasn't riding, and I kind of had no one to ride with. But I had this kind of plan in my head I wanted to do this other stuff. So it's like, I guess the average freestyle rider might not even necessarily be on board with, because I just had these silly ideas of, not silly, but like I wanted to, triples and all this stuff. And I just found it hard there. And like, I was kind of stuck in a rut, I guess you'd say. And like I was in Melbourne, it's like, those fucking big hours, man. It's like people there just live to work. And like I was doing, the company I was working for was subcontracting to John Holland with all this rail stuff. And it's like, you're doing these shutdowns every few weeks on nights where you're occupied for 16 hours a night. You're 12 on site, but you got to pick your truck up and travel to the city. Like it was just too much shit going on, and I just wanted a bit more, And I was like, fuck, I want to go up there. The weather's good. There's a better base of people riding, and I had wanted to do it for a few years, but at the time, when I really wanted to do it, but I had that place at Ararat, which I'd invested some cash into and all that. So I'm like, it was just the right time. And we'd just done all the COVID stuff, and the borders were still closed at this stage. But then once the borders opened, me and my fiance Beth, we literally we didn't even say goodbye to anyone. The very next day, we packed my iLoad van. I had 2 bikes, toolbox, all my gear bags, spare parts, couple of clothes, TV, all this shit. We just packed it into a van and didn't even have time to say goodbye because like we need to get over the border
while the border's open.
Yeah, we got a rental. Like it was hard enough to do that. We just did it and we just got up here, and then it was like instantly like just the biggest change ever, like in the best way possible. And not like riding aside, just never been so happy with like just with normal life in general. It's just an unreal place up here, and
I completely agree, bro.
Yeah, like I encourage anyone, whether I know you or not, I encourage anyone that's thinking about it to just do it.
Yeah.
Like you think, why do people go to the Gold Coast for a holiday? Because it's fucking awesome. So if you can have that awesomeness every day, and that doesn't wear off. Like I've been here for exactly a year now, and to me, I still kind of feel like I'm almost on a bit of a holiday, and I've been here for a year. Like I thought that would wear off after 2 weeks, and I'm not like living the dream. Like I'm still going to work and just doing normal shit, but I love it. Like it's so much. It's a place for opportunity. And like even in this complex, you got Todd Waters just there, and you guys, and then like, you got Sam Moore just down the road, and like there's just people are just, it's just the place to be. Like it's like a hub.
There's like a mindset.
Yeah,
and that was when I moved back from America. I just lived at my parents for like a year.
Yeah,
but it was when Maddie first bought Next Door. So Maddie owns Next Door as well.
Oh yeah,
and so he was working out of there, and if you watch like the very first episodes of the podcast, like it was just downstairs in there. Like Maddie was still working, like
going mad,
keyboard going in the background, and
keyboard warrior,
And I was living at my parents, and I was just driving down here every day.
And where was that from?
From like Springwood in Brizzy.
Oh shit! Yeah, righto. Yeah.
So I just come and
commuting every day back,
and I'd literally just pretended like I worked for the podcast full time.
Yeah.
Like, and then I was like, I'm just gonna move to the Goldie, and then as soon as it was like 2019 when Harry bought his house, I was just like, I'm moving into your apartment, and then I've been pretty much like in there.
Yeah, like it's something. Like I said before, earlier I touched on. It's kind of like what the Gold Coast reminds me of is like Temecula. It's like the hub for motocross, and like everyone's there. Like you got KTM North America, and then you got Twisted Development and DBK, and like everyone's just there, and it's so cool. And you can go to to get lunch somewhere, and like you'll see like someone, 3 pro riders. It's kind of like here, you go down to Wahoo's, and like everyone's there. Like it's just that cool atmosphere, and there's a lot of like-minded people around that, and not even people that don't even have to ride motorbikes, but just a lot of people that have got
people here having a crack.
Yeah, similar things in common, and like I've got. I got just as much respect for someone who's a chippy or a concreter who's fucking having a go, who started their own thing or doing whatever, or working for someone trying to build up.
Like Grant Bink's a real good example of it.
Like people are having a fucking go, and I don't think motorbikes is, who fucking cares?
Yeah,
it's a fucking motorbike. Like it doesn't matter. But like if you're having a go at anything, as long as you're having a go at it and you're trying to do good, or you're trying to better yourself, or you're just working hard, and not complaining.
You just got to respect
then
that.
I like it. I like the grind. I really do respect that. So I just feel like up here there's kind of more people with similar interests in that way. And I just think that's why I think it's just a good place to live, because you're almost like, look, I've never needed to like find motivation. I've always been very self-motivated to do shit. But up here, it's just like that extra kick in the ass. Like like fucking, you might want to have a rest day and not do anything. And it's like, nah, like you look outside, it's fucking sunny. The beach is just down the road. Like it's just a good atmosphere. It's a good vibe. And you kind of just want to keep having a go and doing that little bit extra. So like, moving up here has been the best thing ever. Like, as I said, anyone that's thinking of it, do it. Like, what do you got to lose? Nothing. Like,
I think just being around, it's the like-minded people, and I'm so lucky that, like, me and Sammy have been best mates for like 15 years.
Yeah.
So we've always shared. We've got the same mentality now as we did 15 years ago when I was like 18 and he was, probably like 20.
Yeah.
And we both had no money.
Yeah.
Like literally nothing. Sleeping on shitty. But we had the same mindset.
Yeah.
It's like,
it just got you to where you are now.
Yeah, it just takes years for that mindset to catch up, whether it's like money wise, success wise, like your business working.
Well, it's like we were talking about before with the training, it's consistency.
Yeah.
So the fact that you guys had that same mindset back then when you didn't have anything, but it's that mindset and being consistent and still chasing those goals for fucking, it doesn't take 6 months or a year. It's like, it's taken 8 years, maybe
10 year overnight
10
success.
years, but that's what that overnight success shit's a joke. Unless you're a fucking influencer or influencer, or they call her on OnlyFans. But like that's what you need to do to be successful. And I think, you know, that's what it's like. You guys have obviously stayed consistent, and like, you know, like Sammy's like one of the best blokes I've ever met. Like 100%. He's a fucking legend, and like, and he's like probably one of the most generous people I've ever met as well. And he doesn't want to make it known that he's generous. He flies under the radar in that way, and he just likes to help people out. And like, it's fucking cool, you know.
Yeah, so I think that when you those people matter more than like almost your environment. You know what I mean? Like you should really seek out people that inspire you, or people, because it's funny, like even like Sam and Maddie both make more money than me. So like at no point in the success of like what I've been doing, as it gets bigger and better, like I'm still looking up to those guys, you know. So it's like you're always around people that are doing better than you. Then you're like, you never even get a chance to like get your ego over inflate. You never get to be the fucking man, because you've always got boys around you that are.
You know what? It's like totally different sort of thing, but it's like when you're a motocross rider and when you're younger and you always train with someone who's a bit older or a bit faster, and it's, you know, it's like Danger Boy. Like he started at Star, and it was a big fucking, it would have been nerve-wracking for him, but you're riding with these people that are a bit older, a bit more experienced, and they're faster, and it's like, look how they just literally, it's like they got a tie-down strap to your front mudguard, and they pull you along, and then you become them at a younger age, or whatever it is. So it's like, I think it's so important to do that, and you never want to be the smartest or the most successful, the best person in the room. You just want to be the hardest worker, and then if you can try to, you know, do things that other people are doing and just follow in what they're doing, you know, then it's only going to make you a little bit better. So I think that's the way to look at it, I reckon. Everyone has a different opinion, but that's the go. Yeah, that's the fucking go.
So how did it feel coming up into the like 50-60 crew, because you're like an outsider? Like those boys have been working together for so long, like they're literally best mates for like years. So was it hard to kind of come in and sort of be a bit of an outsider, but work towards the same sort of goal? Or?
Not, I wouldn't say all the boys are very inviting. They're all legends, I'd say. But I mean, the thing it was like an easier sort of transition for me, because people like Sawley, you know, like we were talking about earlier, when I was in, like,
has known you for
since
so
I was
long.
8 years old, and Top Dog not as long, but like, because Top Dog's always been such good mates with Cam Sinclair, like I've been able to be friends with Top Dog for a lot of years now as well. So, and then obviously Harry, I've known Harry for a while, and Birchie, like, you know, when we were doing the tours in like Nitro stuff when I was 16, and I was just the +1 on the 4-person flip, but like Birchie was always there, and like all these guys. So I've been lucky that we've already been mates for years and years and years before me moving here. So it's not like I moved up and, you know, it would have been a bit different if I moved up and I'm like, hey, you guys have got a compound, can I? Like, I didn't even expect to ride there. I was just like, I just got to get here and just figure it out as it goes. But it was pretty good, man. It was a very easy sort of transition for me, because like I probably have as many friends here as what I do in Melbourne, you know, or close to. So it's not like, for instance, when I moved to China, I didn't have any friends. There's a lot.
Yeah, that's a rough road.
Yeah, but no, it was like, it was really cool, you know, and it was like basically straight away, you know, once, obviously because I've known him for long, but we don't hang out often. But then once I was up here for a couple of weeks, it's like you kind of just join the program, and it's like, you know, like feels like I've been living here for 10 years sort of thing. So, like it's cool. It's been really good. You know, definitely no complaints from me. So, and I've met a lot of other cool people since being up here, and same sort of thing. It's been unreal. I've got nothing. It's nothing that I would have wanted to have done differently, or I wish would change or anything. Like, it's just been a smooth sort of transition.
Yeah.
I had work sort of organised before I moved up as well with Raceline. So I hadn't been in the suspension game for a couple of years, well, quite a few years, because I'd been doing construction and all that other bricklaying. I'd done a bit of chippy work, concreting, truck driver. I've done heaps of shit, but I was like, I do really thoroughly enjoy suspension. I really, really do like it. So that was cool. So I kind of already teed that up at the time. Kevin Williams owned it.
Yeah.
So I teed that up with him. So just so I knew that I'd have somewhere to make money to pay for shit while I was here. So that was kind of, again, another easy transition. I didn't have to get up here and start handing out fucking business cards. Yeah. Not that I have either of them, but no, it was just awesome. You know, like everything happened pretty easy, and you know, I guess it's not always going to be that easy, but again, you never know until you have a crack at it. Like, it kind of, in my head, it was going to be a bit harder than what it was, but you know, you always think, oh, I've got to move here. Like, how am I going to...
Trying to prep for worst case scenario.
But it's not that hard. You just load your van up and fuck off. Like, it's pretty easy, you know what I mean? And I always just...
Especially if you got a good chick that's down to...
Yeah,
you know.
she was keen as, and, you know, a good thing with her is, like, it's like 3 of her best friends from Melbourne who she, like, went to school with and she used to work with. They moved here, like, 2 years ago. So coming up here, she already had, like, some of her own friends from home that she's known for her whole life, and she now works with them up here. So that's another way it's been really cool, is because, like, obviously Beth's been able to meet a lot of my mates, partners, wives, whatever, and built good friendships there. But it's good that she can feel comfortable with her own friends from home as well, so it doesn't get overwhelming, you know, like having to change your whole life. Like, so so it just, honestly, it's worked out, like, probably better than I could have planned it. So, you know what I mean? So it's been, it's been good transition.
And so when before we left off the piss, you were talking about hitting the moon booter for the first time. So and so when did so also as well, so is Nitro sort of like a sponsor at this point? And like, and when did the Black Rifle coffee thing happen? Like, so how did that whole thing work out? Because, like, we're getting pretty close to World Games by this point. Like, we're in what month? Like March, April
this year.
Yeah. Like, when would it be that you're hitting the moon booter?
4 weeks before.
Fuck, really?
I had never jumped a moon booter before that. I jumped things that were similar, but I'd never jumped a moon booter at all. So I'm talking 4 weeks out, man, because I broke my collarbone, and then I come back, and I still didn't know what trick. I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know exactly how it was going to work. Do it. And at one point, I wanted to go back to Jacko's and like work on some stuff there, but then that kind of just never really eventuated. So I'm like, well, I've got to figure something out. So then, but yeah, Nitro not at all like a sponsor at, you know, at this point in time, like just a, you know, like I don't know what you call it, but just no one had done anything with Nitro for a couple of years because of COVID and all that. So like no one's really, we're all in the same position, I guess you'd say. But I jumped the moon booter just in standard spec, like just on flat ground, and I was like, damn, like that's a great ramp. Like it's just felt really good, and I was like, straight away I got me thinking, I'm like, that thing's got some potential. So I sort of just came up with what I thought it needed to do a triple flip, and then I had a good friend who I met up here, Brock Taylor. So he came out. He's a bloody legend for this because he was working. I think he's got a background in like welding and all that kind of stuff. But he's working as a chippy. So he was working his normal chippy job, and then he's meeting me at the compound, New South Wales. Like it's technically New South Wales, but he's still driving. He was working in Broadbeach, so he's driving an hour after work to meet me. Oh, do you know him? Yeah. So he's meeting me there, right? And then he's bringing I just ran around and got all the materials we needed. I found some mesh in fucking halfway to Brizzy, and I found the rest of the steel locally in Burleigh and stuff. And then I already knew exactly what I wanted. Like I knew how much I wanted to lift it, and I knew exactly how much flat I thought I needed. And then we had like ladders set up as like scaff, and like he brought his we had like a Jenny in that, and brought his welder, and it was just all like full ghetto wearing thongs, like Chinese work boots and that. And we just worked till it was dark, and then.
So what moon booter were you modifying? The one that Harry had?
So I think Nitro owns that ramp at 50/60. So, so just modified that. So what I did, because a bunch of people have asked what it was and everything, and it was, I jacked it up 320 mil, and that was, I only wanted it 300, but I found a piece of steel that was at 320, and I'm like, that works perfect. So bolted the ramp to that. So that was to lift it 300 mil higher, and then I did a 600 mil extension of just dead flat, because the moon booter has a it's an interesting style of ramp. In America, they always have that flat piece on top, which back in the day I never really understood. But then as I've learnt, Travis taught me about them to start off with, but as I've learnt, it's actually a really, really good help. So any ramps I have in the future for triples or tricks like that will always have that flat piece, because what that allows you to do is you can almost be slightly lazy or not perfect with the
and you
pull.
Can like pull into that thing. You've got like that flat to like pull against.
Yeah, if you pull the tiniest little bit too early on a constant radius, it's like game over. Your rotation's going to be shit.
Yeah.
You got to pull, and with your doubles and triples especially, you got to pull. The later you pull, the better. So what that flat piece allows you to do is to pull. You might pull the tiniest little bit too early, but because your bike's sort of level on the flat, like it's the same. So I kind of never really understood it until I jumped one, and then I'm like, oh, that thing's like, it makes a lot of sense. So Brock welded 600 of just flat, and then 300 jacked up. So we were down there working. Leading up to there, I was at the compound, like I was working at Raceline during the day, and then I was down at the compound every night till dark, just doing bits and pieces and tidying things up and stuff. And Brock was going mad, and then and then I obviously rode that. Whenever it was the next week or something, and then straight away I was like, "Fuck, this thing's
we're on."
Yeah, it's good. Like it just seemed to be really good. And I did a couple of different things with the bike, like played around with the gearing a little bit, and you keep in mind I was still in second gear. I had the option of third gear, so I went like a smaller front and rear sprocket from standard to try to give me a bit more of second gear.
Yeah,
but I had the option of third gear, but I didn't need to worry about third gear because I was able to, once I've got all my stuff sorted as far as the bike setup and everything like that, and the power of the bike and everything, I kind of like I could over rotate them in second gear if I needed to, if I got everything right. So I kind of didn't have any need to worry about going in third gear, because then you got to worry about changing your technique to not over rowy and stuff. So I just so just worried about that, and just sort of kept doing that. But that's like, I think by the time we got it done, it was like maybe 3 weeks out from World Games. So we're just sort of doing that and getting it ready. And then it was cool because I could finally tell, because Nitro were hitting me up for like, they wanted the dimensions of the ramp so they could get like Nitro Circus banners made to fit.
Yeah.
And before this, I had no idea. But I was probably pissed off with me because I was like, oh, yeah, I'll get them for you soon. But I had no idea of what ramp I was using. I didn't want to tell them because then they'd pull it from World Games. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'll get them soon. Yeah, sorry, man, I'll get it done. And like in my head, I'm like, I haven't even got a ramp. Like, just before I've even jumped the thing, I'm like, oh, I'll figure it out. I'm like, I'll fucking make my own banner if I have to. I'll take some blue material and cut it out and make it myself. But I was like stoked because then I could finally like send them some footage and show them that I was doing it, and then that was like, all right, sweet, we're on.
Yeah.
And then I guess the beauty of that was I could, like I was saying earlier, I always wanted to do it on a smaller setup because then I can just use the normal down ramp that they use on tour, which is the Moon Buddha landing. Because with the mods that we made to the ramp, you go a little bit higher than a Moon Buddha, but not
enough
extremely.
To need
the down ramp was plenty of room, and the way that I kind of had it set up at World Games was so I'd land right at the top to try to make it as smooth as possible, which it was. Like it was fine landing at the top, so there was a lot of place to land. Like I could have gone a bit further, but I guess the beauty of those ramps, when they're like a Moon Buddha ramp, especially with it being a bit steeper, you can hit it a bit faster, but all you're going to do is go a little bit higher. Yeah. You're not necessarily going to go much further.
Yeah.
But then like with the triples and stuff, if you hit the ramp faster, like into the ramp, you're actually going to mess up your rotation, because if you come in faster, you don't have that same brap off the lip, and you lose a lot of momentum. So you'll actually go
like stalling yourself out almost.
So like that's why you'll see, you come in slow, and like I actually roll my wrist. I learnt this from Cam Sinclair when he was doing doubles, but my throttle hand, I roll it forward like this.
Yeah.
So that when I give it I can give it full throttle 100%, and my elbows like that. I'm not doing a chicken wing.
You know it's fucking mental? What? That's what Toby does at Fink.
Really? Yeah, that's fucking sick. Yeah, I love that.
Dude, he goes like, you'll just see me sitting there. He goes, oh,
yeah.
Oh, and then he's just like,
yeah, because then you're like that. Because then you're in
in
the attack position and you're strong.
Yeah.
And like, it's the perfect thing. So I was stoked when like I started figuring that out. And then like, yeah, so you lock both feet. So your left boot's under the gear shifter and I'd click second and hold it up the whole time and just never let the gear shifter down. So I'm locked in, and then had some teeth like welded underneath the brake. Yeah, and hold that up. So you kind of feel a little bit odd coming into the ramp, because the best way to do it is to kind of go like, if you can imagine going like a bit pigeon-toed, like toes facing in, because that way you're locked into the bike, so you can pull, tuck, and you kind of engage your core muscles, and you kind of sit like that in the bike, and that's how you're going to get your best spin. So you kind of, at the start, feel a bit odd, like your toes are in, you're hooked in, you got your wrist forward. It's like, fuck, this feels a bit weird, but then you get used to it pretty quick. And then obviously that's what works the best, you know, to make the trick fucking possible or make it happen. So yeah.
So when did Harry kind of, like, you guys sort of started working? Were you working like together on it, or sort of side by side, or like he had his way, you had your way, and it was like a different style?
Well, he wasn't at the start. I didn't know he was doing it. Like I was down there doing them. I think he was maybe having a bit of time off. I think he had a sore rib or something. He was letting heal up. So at the time I was doing them, and he was down there, and we were like helping out with setting the bag up and that. And I was down there sort of doing them at the start, and then I didn't know he was doing them, but I think he went down without me. He did a little sneaky one, but I think he was filming with Monster.
Yeah.
And then, but like, so we had a very different technique, different bike setup, different suspension. Like I actually did Harry's suspension, and like a couple of months before.
That's
but
pretty sick.
But yeah, like I've revalved his stuff he already had a base setting, but then he wanted it a little bit different, so I put a setting in, and that worked out. But he had his bike setup was a bit different to mine, and obviously our riding style is a bit different, and our body weight and everything. So like we had our own, like we both did the same trick, but we did have our own kind of twist on it, if you could say. So then I kind of found out he was doing it, maybe a week out or two just before. And then we went down and had maybe 2 sessions together, doing them like the week before leading up, and then that was pretty much it, because we actually got a fair bit of rain like the first and then we had to get the ramp, like that ramp, we had to have that taken to Nitro World Games in Brisbane, so that was picked up I don't know, a couple of days before, and then it was like taken up on a truck to Brizzy, and then just kind of kept at Suncorp for a bit. So but yeah, I reckon we had probably 2 sessions together, like both doing it. But like we were only sort of, like I was happy, the kind of the mindset that I had was when I'd go out there, because I could already do the trick, like I'd already figured out how to do it on that particular ramp, and being, a week out from a competition, you don't want to drill yourself or get hurt, So my mindset was, on the day of the event, the only jump that matters is the first jump, because you're doing best trick, you just do 1 jump, that's it. So my mindset was go out and do one that's perfect, and then go home, and that's it. That's all I've got to do, because you don't get, well, generally speaking, in best trick, you don't get warm-ups. So that's not how it is. I was very surprised on the day with how that all panned out, because we were under not strict instruction, but we had emails leading up to the event. You had to submit the trick you were doing, and they explain exactly how the competition works. So, you get 2 attempts, and the best attempt, wins basically. Or they only take the score from your best attempt, I should say. And from the time where you get the thumbs up to go, you have 5 minutes. So you can ride around on the flat and warm your bike up, rev up the crowd, but you only have 5 minutes space to do those 2 jumps. So I was like, well, obviously I didn't want to do a straight jump on the first and have that as a throwaway and then do a triple, because
probably
got more chance of crashing doing a straight jump off that thing, to be honest. It's like so fucking peaky. Doing like a big Ronnie Mac, you know. So I was like, but I mean, that's not my style anyway. I wasn't going there to do a straightie. Like I was going there to do it on the first attempt, and that was all I'd planned for. Like I didn't have a backup plan, because that's what I was gonna do. It was like,
burn the boats.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you do that. You bend a set of bars. It's like, what do? You've only got 5 minutes to do your thing. So otherwise, you're going there to do it, and that's it. So that was why, like, leading up, I was kind of, you know, previous to that, a week before, I was doing more, maybe do 3 or 4 on the day. But then, leading up, I was just do one. And Harry was very similar. Like, or he would probably do some doubles and then, do 1 or 2 triples maybe, like in the sessions just beforehand. But so I guess in that way we had a pretty similar setup. But I didn't bother double flipping I never double flipped it with the extension. But I just
why was that?
Well, I just didn't think I needed to, because I never was going to do a double flip off it.
So you just wanted to have the triple in your mind.
Well, that's all I was worried about. But everyone has a different way, and one thing I do think is good about that is it gets you a warm up. Like, so when you go out to the compound on the day, you can get your warm up into it. But like, I was kind of just in like the mindset of, I don't get a warm up on the day, so like I'll just try to.
Yeah, you were in like war mode almost.
Yeah, well, I mean, but like everyone's different, you know, and I'm not saying what I did is technically it's probably stupider or whatever. Like some people might say, but for me it's smarter. You know, but what Harry did for him is smarter, and that works for him. So, you know, like everyone has a different way of doing things, and no one can really, no 2 things work for the same or 2 different people. You know what I mean? So I was like, whatever works for you, do it and have a go at it, and if that works, sweet. So that was kind of how all that stuff went down.
So how did you feel on the day? Like, so I flew. Well, I can't remember where I was. Was I? Yeah, it must have been at Ozex.
It was the same day, and then it got.
So then I flew back. So that I could like be at the event, because I was genuinely like, I'm close with Harry. Like, we've been friends for like, forever. And then obviously like met you. I wanted both of yous. I was worried that someone was gonna get super hurt. You know, and it's just a weird thing.
You
like,
just
want to be there just for you. Even though like I probably couldn't do anything for anyone.
But you don't want anyone to get hurt. That's another thing. Like,
like it felt heavy. You know, that, and I don't normally get that feeling like very often. And like to go. So I can't imagine if I'm feeling this way on the day. I can't imagine how you guys are feeling. Like, visibly, Harry looked fucking rattled. Like when he was doing his warm ups and like what he said on the podcast too. They were like, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna go," and then it got pushed back and pushed back.
Yeah,
and pushed back.
They kept pushing it back heaps. But I mean, I wasn't too worried. It was kind of, I guess it was a little bit annoying in the way of, you kind of get G'd up to do something, and you almost use a bit of you're trying to save your energy, because I was at the stadium every day from like 7 a.m. onwards, and not everyone was there, but I was there. It was raining. I was helping like drain water off the stadium, and I was helping the track crew move ramps, and I was just trying to be a part of everything, just to help out and just be aware of what was going on.
It probably kept your mind off the trick a bit too, in a way.
I think so, but that's just the kind of nature I am. I want to be there and help out and do shit. So. But the thing that was a little bit annoying when it kept getting pushed back, but only because I felt like I was, you almost, it's hard to explain.
You're wasting something.
When you G yourself up so much and you get ready and you get geared up, you've actually almost exhausted a bit of energy by getting yourself in that mental state. And it sounds...
Oh, I completely agree,
bro. For people that haven't been in that position, that might not make sense, but it does take a lot of... I guess mental energy, if that's a thing. I don't know.
Oh,
mental
dude,
strength
I completely. Yeah. No.
So that was kind of this is no one's fault. It's not Nitro's fault. It's just how it fucking worked out. But look, it was a bit annoying, but I was pretty cruisy. Like when we were sort of backstage or whatever, I was pretty cruisy. I was just sort of sitting there listening to music, and I wasn't really talking to anyone. Like my missus was there, but she was just was hanging out doing whatever. I was just kind of listening to music and. Yeah, just sort of relaxing, and I wasn't really trying not to think about it, because I already knew what I was going to do. So the more you think about it, like, kind of there's no point, you know what I mean? I mean, I felt pretty relaxed. Well, I felt as relaxed as I could. I might have looked a little bit on edge to someone else. But for me, I felt it relaxed enough for the situation I was in. But I mean, look, I watched it back, and you can kind of see that when they got the camera on me beforehand, I do look pretty relaxed. Like I was kind of joking around. I was
we should watch it, Griff.
I was pointing to the black rifle on my helmet. When I was going out and I was doing the horns. And, like I felt pretty good.
Yeah, you're in the moment. Like
I was sweating bullets. Like it was because it was so humid. It was. I had like a body armor on and stuff, and I had a bunch of the body armor and then like the jersey, and I had like some Ballards like pants with padding in it. I had some layers on, and I always run pretty hot too, and because it was so extremely humid down there in the stadium. So like when I was walking around, like leading up, man, I had a dry times towel, and I was just wiping sweat off me, but I was in I don't know, I felt pretty good, I felt like I was preparing to go out and box on with someone.
Bro. I
was like pumped, and people were looking at me and shit, and I wasn't it's like I wasn't there.
So we're watching it now for the people just listening. We sort of got it up on the screen.
So you can see foot under the brake, foot under the shifter.
And then the big old elbow up.
Elbows up. So see, I landed good, and you can see that last bit. So people were asking me about that, but you notice how I did a nose wheelie at the end there?
Yeah.
So
back a bit.
So I landed perfect, but I was so excited, I grabbed a handful of throttle, man.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm getting to the end of this runway, I'm throwing my bike, and I'm going mad because this is 4 years of build-up. So I actually, I think I landed perfect. But because it's an airbag,
it just bounces.
It's kind of weird, and I'm 90, almost 100 kilos. It just sucked the back tire in, and because we're running 20 plus psi in our tires,
Yeah.
So and because I just grabbed throttle, I was just so pumped. I'm just like, and it kind of did a wheelie out of it. But I was stoked with the landing, as far as the distance and stuff, because that was one thing I was pretty, I just wanted to make sure I landed. Right, I wanted to land right at the top, so it was at its softest. Because what I was worried about, because having a bit of extra weight with the bike and a rider, if you kind of land halfway down, you can. I don't know if you've seen with airbags, but you can get that bounce.
Yeah.
And when you're spinning like that with even a double flip, for instance, if you land like that and get a bounce,
of inertia.
The momentum that you're carrying from your backward rotation, it's going to pull you off the back of the bike.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that to happen. A, because I wanted to land at first go, but B, if you're meant to have 5 minutes in your run, if you've bent a pair of bars or crack a throttle tube, you don't have time to fix that. So I got this shit going through my mind. So I'm that's why I really wanted to make sure I landed at the top, and I did it, perfect. Not perfect, but I just wanted to land it and get out of there and get to the bar and have a beer afterwards and just cool down, relax. But no, it was cool. It was an awesome event. It was. It was almost a bit draining for everyone there on the, every athlete that was there, because practice was getting canned, and I mean, it's no one's fault. It was just the weather. It was raining, unbelievably raining, and then in Melbourne the same weekend for AusX Open, it was sunny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But then the rain went there.
Yeah, then the rain went there. It was literally rain on the whole east coast of the country, pretty much.
Yeah, I was like, what's the chances of that Night Show Circus has had that date planned, because it was the same date last year.
Yeah.
So people that bought tickets last year or whatever, it was the same date. It's not so how can you plan? You can't plan weather a year out, but it's what's the chances, man? Because the weekend before that, it was 30 something degrees.
It's pristine.
And then a couple days after, it was mid 30s. And it's what's the chances? But, because it was super windy too. But if I was doing freestyle run, the wind would play more of be a bigger impact for me, I think. But I wasn't really worried about wind at all, because I'd done some triples into the flat airbag when it was windy and I didn't really notice it. You might drift left or right a little bit. For me, I always go to the right, but I didn't know it didn't at all mess up my rotation. I felt, because I was tucked, I was one with the bike, you just glide straight through the wind. So for me, the wind wasn't an issue. But for the other guys doing FMX and BMX and that, some of the times when they were having to practice, it was blowing a mean gale. It was gnarly. So it was, but I mean, look, the guys did what they could to pull the event off. There was some things that they probably could have done differently, Night Show, but no one knows at the time. You know, everyone's just working their hardest and trying to.
You're just scrambling to make it happen.
Trying to make the right call or whatever, and you know it. It ended up as it did, and we both landed a triple backflip, and you know everyone landed. A few people crashed, but everyone was safe coming out of it, and you know we all lived to tell the tale. So I guess it's a job well done for everyone involved. And that feeling right there. Yeah, it's pretty unreal. Of everyone just like losing their shit. And like sometimes I think, and I've thought about this more and more in my life lately, or maybe over the last couple of years, is that I actually feel like relief is the feeling that we're actually chasing. Yeah. Like the relief of something almost lasts longer than the feeling of doing the thing. Like I know what you mean. That relief kind of just radiates. Yeah. You know what? I can radiate for a while in that. I can probably agree with that because like that feeling there, you know, on the screen there, like it was awesome, you know, and I was pretty G'd up for the rest of the night, maybe the next day, but like, you know, that might have lasted 2 days, but then I was back to normal life. But like the relief, I guess. Not that I haven't thought about it much, but now watching it again, I'm probably still experiencing that relief now. Yeah. I'm like, that's pretty cool. So it's interesting you say that because I hadn't really, I hadn't thought about it in that way, but now you got me thinking. I think you could be right about that one, mate. Yeah, I've started thinking about it. Like, I think it was through like doing fucking jiu-jitsu competitions, as silly as it sounds, but it was like the relief that I'd feel when it was over. Yeah, that was almost the high. Yeah, or it lasted longer because you know, I think, and you'd maybe be able to speak on this, but you land a triple backflip and it's like you're still the same person. Oh yeah, fuck. You know, like there's no. Nah. I think a lot of people though, especially when they first do something big like this, or that something crazy happens in their life, they think, oh, this is going to be it. Yeah. This is what'll make me happy, or this is I'll change after this. Yeah, like for me, look, I'll be straight up honest. I didn't expect anything to change in my life at all. That's so good. I didn't expect it to because I don't live in Disneyland, you know? Like I understand how things work, and not at one point did I think I'm going to do this and it's going to be like you're going to be a star. Cash money. No more work. Like, mate, I had a couple of days off. Me and Top Dog went mad down in Burleigh, had a couple of beers and celebrated for a few days. But then I just went back to work. Yeah. And I probably didn't have to go back to work just then. Like I could have maybe had another bit of like a couple more days, but what for? Yeah. Just go back to work. Go back to your shit. Go, like it's, things at the end of the day, like I said, it's a motorbike. Who gives a shit? Like I think it's cool and I like motorbikes, but it's like Jimmy Fred down the street doesn't. Like, you're not gonna walk down in Burleigh and people know, like, who cares? You just done a jump and whatever. Like, you know, and it's cool. It was a triple backflip, but there's more shit you can do. Like I've already put that behind me, and I'm already thinking about other things and bigger things and whatever. So, but like, I'm glad that I do have that mindset of like knowing that your life you're not going to become a superstar, or you're not going to make heaps of money. Like nothing's really changed. Nothing at all has really changed for me. I'm working on a couple sort of things just with existing sponsors, like contracts for next year and stuff, but and potentially a couple of new things which I've been kind of chatting with some people about in the States, but nothing really has changed. But hey, if there's anyone that wants to get behind me, I'm certainly interested. I'm open. Swipe right or left or whatever you do. Yeah. But because I do have some cool things sort of planned. Nothing's had the green tick or the blue tick of approval. Yeah. No, nothing's. But like I'm working on some things with some people in the States and got some plans of some stuff I want to do. So yeah, like as I said, nothing's changed, but I do want to keep pushing forward. I don't want to do a triple flip and then kick back and start doing bunny hops and wheelies. Like I want to keep going hard. I want to go harder, like much harder. So, and if it were up to me, I'd be doing this stuff tomorrow. Like I want to. Yeah. I'm not trying to have a cool down period. Like I want to keep charging, but there's other things that when you're doing things on a bigger scale, like there's things that you need. It's just a process. Some financial support, like some budget, some like there's a bit more of a team as well. Like it's like I guess you can see in that moment there, like it's a team. You need a team of people to help out. It's not, there's only one person riding the dirt bike, but there's a team of people that have gone behind making that happen. So
100%.
And I've learnt that more over the years with trying to do some things like this, that you do need good people around you. And it could just be a mate that knows nothing about dirt bikes, but they're there to give you a set of hands, and they'll know. Your mate might be a chippy and he can tell you how to brace the ramp or cut a little wedge to wedge it to stay. Like there's, you need that help. So I've been lucky to have good mates around me to help out. Like Top Dog was, Toppy was awesome leading up.
Dude, I'm so stoked for him too.
Oh mate,
first comp.
I was so stoked, because like there was a lot of time, in that week leading up. Like I'd ride a couple days, but I'd be happy to just have some time off and cruise. But I was down at the compound every single night with Top Dog and Southie. I was pulling them out of the foam pit, and I just was stoked to be there. Like I was like, I'd drive home, like pumped, and I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
I've just been helping them, but like just being in that, like that's what I live for.
In the mix.
Yeah, like if I could do something, like if I can do freestyle full time and not have to go to work, I would love it, because I just love being in that mix. You know what I mean? And like I was stoked, and I think. I don't actually know if you can see it on the replays and that, but when Top Dog, so like I was going out to do my jump just after Top Dog, not the very next, but the one after. But like, and I was kind of in my own zone doing my shit, but then when Toppy was going, like I switched on, and I was so stoked. I was jumping and carrying on and fist pumping, almost pulled my shoulder out doing a fist pump. Like I was seriously so stoked for him, because we had been training together the whole time leading up, and we're doing two different tricks, but like we were both helping each other where we could with the certain trick. And like I wanted him, I'm serious, I wanted him to land just as much as I wanted to. Like I was that stoked for him. So, and because like he had his things to deal with leading up as well. He like not broke his hand, but he fucked his hand up like 2 weeks before, and then couldn't ride for a bit, so he went to Bali. Like the week before he went to Bali,
just went mad.
Yeah, and then like he was, like there was little things. There's always like
there's always adversity,
especially for a best trick competition, because to do best trick, I was telling Southie, he's like, man, I'm sore like leading up to it. I'm like, you're doing best trick, you're doing something that other people don't necessarily want to do, so you have to push through the feelings of being sore, because that's the whole reason you're in best trick, because
other people don't want to do this shit.
and like I don't think it would be normal to go to a best trick competition with not having an injury. Like 10 days before, I broke my nose. I got 15 stitches in my lip.
That was heavy.
Two black eyes, and I healed up pretty good. And like I got a bunch of fake teeth at the front here that are all held together in a mouth guard at the moment. I actually I lost me fake teeth the other day, and I'm like, dude, I said to my missus, I'm like, what can I do?
This podcast.
No, that's all I cared about. I'm like, what am I going to do?
That would have been fucking unreal.
I was stressing out, And then I just ended up a bit of a fucking home job, but I've got like got this mouth guard thing made, and then we just got a couple of little. You can't really. You can tell up close, but like for people watching, they're not going to be going, oh, this bloke, this tattooed bloke's got shit teeth. Like it looks better with it out, but fuck, who cares? But look, there's always shit leading up to a competition, and I was stoked for everyone. It was a shame that Southie didn't get it around, but. Like, I reckon that second attempt, he got his feet caught on the handlebars on the way out and the way back. And he still descended at full extension. If he didn't get his feet caught, he would have landed, I reckon. Or he would have been very close, because I think his momentum, if he landed back wheel first, because he's got forward momentum, I think the momentum still would have pushed him forward. But it was just that little bit of hesitation on the way out and in. But I think he did regardless, I think he did a good job. It was his first competition.
I reckon he almost needed taller bars, man.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I said the same thing, because he's a big dude. Like, he's pretty...
Yeah, he should have just gone full ape hanger.
Yeah, I said that leading up, and I also said even... He thought he had the highest bars you could get, but I was saying, well, let's get some bar risers on there.
Yeah.
Like, let's just get the bars higher, because you might the actual bend of the handlebars might be okay, but if we can get some bar risers on there, that extra bit of height there might allow you, I don't know. Like,
well, I thought he almost needed to have it lower at the triple clamps and higher at the bars, just so you got more clearance.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, because I was helping him, because I did his suspension too just before World Games. So I put in like the same. I changed my suspension for the triple, like made it a bit harder and a bit slower, but I put my normal FMX spec into Southie's bike for that, which worked good for him, and I was kind of helping him out with his bike. But yeah, like it sucks, but he didn't kind of have a hell of a lot of time because he was riding a Honda and then he got a KTM. And then, like, he didn't have much time on the horse either beforehand, so it was kind of how it always goes.
Yeah. You just got to make the best of it.
Yeah, you have a competition a year away, and you're like, oh, I got a year, and then like you're 3 weeks out, and you're like, something's happened. You fucking goldfish has died. You fucking handlebar. Yeah. It's like something always happens, but I've kind of learned that that's how it is, and I guess the good guys, like the OG, your Adam Jones and your Levi Sherwood and stuff, those guys, they just know how to deal with that adversity, and that's what makes them champions, because it's never smooth. There's always something, guys like that, they travel overseas and their suspension gets lost at LAX, and then they have to ride practice on standards, but that's what makes those people who they are, and that's what the general public wouldn't know about, but like, guys like that are like, that's why they are who they are. They're champions.
They just don't get rattled in the moment.
Nah, and like I think Levi's such a good example of that. Like, again, like Travis, I couldn't speak highly enough of Levi Sherwood. Like, he's just a fucking champion. He's just a good old Kiwi bloke, and like he's helped me out a lot with just general chat, but about different things with the bike. And like I've always kept him up to date with the triple flip stuff back when I was doing that bigger ramp, and it's just been good to have a yarn with someone like that and talk about different things with different parts on the bike and stuff. And, I just think like it's amazing what he's done, obviously with his career, but like, people talk about hard work, and there's like certain people might work, like for me, I like to work hard in the gym. Other people like to work hard at whatever. The thing I really appreciate and I think is extraordinary about Levi is like how hard he worked on not only his riding was exceptional, the best style, but how hard he worked on like getting to know his bike.
Yeah.
And then having an understanding of, if I change this, it does that. If I do this, if I make this swing arm shorter and shorten the wheelbase, it's going to rotate. Like the amount of stuff that he has learned over the years, and like, that is like gnarly, and he's so smart. Like the dude can do.
It's so specific knowledge too.
But like, I just think it's just I find it pretty incredible because I've got a mechanical background, so I like kind of tap into little bits in here. But like he is like levels above. Like he's like he's like above an
engineer spec. Yeah.
But like certain engineers would look at the stuff he does and be like, oh wow, that's like it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like he's yeah, fuck, good on him. Like he's just another dude like Travis who, would I'd say especially now, I guess he's kind of retired and stuff, but just loves to give people help, whether it's even advice, or making these specialized FMX parts. Like me and Harry were both running Levi Sherwood swing arm on our bike,
right.
So which just basically
shortens the wheelbase.
Yeah, so. But yeah, just another good old Kiwi fella.
Yeah. Hey, let's go to those pics, Griff. We got a couple of photos that were airdropped in during the piss break.
The only two of them have come through.
Is there any of my messages yet? No.
Oh, that's weird. They haven't come through.
That's a bummer.
We might have to do a little edit and chuck them in. But that there, for anyone watching the YouTube video, YouTube version, that is
take the numbers on the screen.
Let's
get
send me a text.
hit him up.
Send us a photo of your hog.
I should have saved your number. All cock shots go to Jo.
So that's just a photo of a set of bent forks from the 2019 Pastrana Land trip.
That's heavy.
That was another when I was saying about that $25,000 budget that it cost. Like I'd budgeted for a little bit, but like that there, so I bent those forks and I needed a set of forks like ASAP, And dude, but I wanted a set of production forks because that's what I had my settings for and that's what I liked. And I could have got a set of cone valve forks cheaper than what I paid for them. So. But I didn't want cone valves because they were that AAR 48 air fork. That's what I wanted. And Dude, one of the guys that was living with Travis, like he was like looking after the house. His name's Massive. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I know Massive.
You know Massive? Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, he like called. I think he called Alden Baker.
I haven't thought
about him
in so long. He's a fucking. He's a G.
So we wanted some forks, and he was like, because he was living in Florida, and he was like calling some bike shops and that, and like no one really had any.
Was he still living in the house next door to Travis's lake house?
Nah, so it was in the Pastrana Land house, looking after the property, because Trav didn't live at the property. He had his own, like another spot.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure Massive ended up calling Alden Baker, and they pulled a set of, like, not pulled them out, but like obviously might have been Anderson on Husky, and obviously they've got all their WP Pro component, you know, their cone valves and track shocks, and there's like just a set of standard. And I think we bought them off them, but it cost me like, oh, dude, it was like $4 or $5 grand or something for a pair of standard forks, man. Like, I could have got cone valves for the same price. But then I ended up going to a mechanic nearby in Maryland there, and then put a setting in myself.
Yeah.
And then that was just like another little part where it cost a little bit more, cash, but that was like, and like I was saying earlier, those times where the bike gets stuffed up and you don't, or vice versa.
Yeah.
The bike was hammered. I was sweet. I was like, no dramas, but I was just so pissed off because I'm like, damn, there goes, 3 days at least, or 4 days of time, plus some money. But the money, once I was all in, I would have spent every single cent I had in my bank account. I did not care because I was already in.
Yeah.
But it was more so the time, because you can't buy time.
Yeah.
I've actually got a tattoo here. Time is money.
Yeah.
You can't buy time. Yeah. Time's very important. So,
are you a big reader?
I've actually this year I've read a bit, not much, but I've read like 6 books or something.
Good. Yeah, that's real good. Like physical books.
Yeah. I just read the Cameron Haynes one. He's like a pro bow hunter in America. It's called Keep Hammering.
Yeah.
Couple of the Ant Middleton, like Zero Negativity.
Yeah. My mum loves his shit.
Yeah, his stuff was cool. My best book is he's a sponsor of mine, Troy Knight. It's called Havoc 06. So he's a ex-military. He was a former combat controller. So Havoc 06 was his call sign.
Yeah.
And that's what his book's called, Havoc 06. So if you see, like on my jersey at World Games, I had under the black rifle, had Havoc 06. So
And what's his book about?
It's about his life, basically. Yeah. So he was, just about his whole story, and like he was doing some mad shit, and like done some cool like private security gigs for like presidents in Afghanistan, like some really interesting stuff. But I might have to read that was a really good read. What else? I've read a few this year, but I'm driving to Sydney tomorrow, so I was gonna start looking for a good audio book, because I'm driving to Sydney, then I'm driving to Melbourne afterwards. So a couple of days after, but I actually like to physically read now. I've it's something that I've taken up only recently, but I think for me, because I've always got too much energy, like because I've got ADHD.
Such a good way to burn mental energy.
Yeah, but it's a good way to calm down almost, or like just to sort of wind down after a day.
I'm the exact same.
Even if it's only 6 or 10 pages, it's just doing that. It puts you in a different sort of state where you can like that, relax. So I've actually found it to be pretty good, and it's interesting because you kind of like, I don't know, it's like one of those things, once you do it, you almost get like, oh, I've got to buy another one, another book, or like, which is, for me, I didn't think I would be like that, because I wouldn't have read a book since I was at school, and then when I was at school, I probably didn't read books. I don't know, you know what I mean? But as I've gotten a bit older, I've just figured that it's so good. And when I was, when I broke my femur at the start of the year, obviously I was, had a bit of time to kill, so that's where I got that Zero Negativity book by Ant Middleton. And then there was another one that he had, which I read, something about working hard. But that was good. And I actually found that probably helped me, it just was a good thing to do while I was injured, because it was just talking about, again, like I say, having a go, working hard, fucking don't worry, setback, whatever, keep going. So, another thing I would recommend for any listeners, it's fucking cool to read. If you don't think it is, well, you. It is cool to read. You learn stuff. Like it's.
Did you find it? Because this is one thing. Because I read a bunch, and I'm always pedaling the bike. And and the one thing people always say to me, they're like, "Oh fuck, I've got ADD. I can't concentrate. I can't read. I just read 2 sentences and then I get lost." It's like, that's fucking how it starts. Yeah. It's just like, I always explain it to people as like running. when you first start running,
you can't
it
run
hurts
10Ks.
like fuck. You can't do a 10K. Like,
no way.
All you can think about the whole time you're running is stopping running.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like to read for people when they first start reading.
Absolutely.
But like, it doesn't take much. Like Toddy started reading a bunch of books lately. Like,
no, mate, I 100% agree. It's like anything you do to start off with, you might not be comfortable. Like going to the gym, you don't know what you're doing. It's weird. You want to get out of there. You want to get home. But yeah, it's the same with reading. Like, see, I was probably lucky that I started when I was injured, because I had no reason to get up and stop, because I was laying down with a sore leg. I was on crutches, so I was only laying down anyway. And like, I'm not the sort of person that can watch the television all the time. Like, I don't mind to watch it, but not all the time. Like, I need to move around, or I like to do something. But I felt like when I was reading, I felt like I was doing something, not just looking at the screen. I felt like I was actually doing something. So I agree, though. It is hard. You lose patience after a bit, or you want to check your dog and bone, look at your Instagram or whatever. But like, I found that because I was there, it was probably a bit easier because I was injured. But it's the same thing.
But like, it's a muscle that you build up.
Yeah, you just get a bit better at it. I'm still probably crap at it, but I'm better than when I started. So that's the main thing. Yeah. We've always got room to improve on things in life. But I think you only know by having a go, and the more you do it, the better you get. It's like anything.
So good. Well, so I brought that up before because you were talking about you can't buy time.
Yep.
So there's a really great book that you should read.
Yep.
Now that I know that you like reading. It's called 4,000 Weeks, Time and How to Use It.
Yeah, right.
So 4,000 weeks is the average human life.
No way. That's
Fuck
interesting.
all, eh?
That doesn't seem like much.
It does not seem like much.
So
it's a really...
That's shit out. I want at least 8,000.
Nah, yeah,
that's crazy, man.
Bud.
I might... I'm...
It's a really, really well written book. Yeah. And the other book that I'm reading at the moment is called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah, I think I've heard about that on a podcast or something.
It's sold like 40 million.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've heard of that.
It's one of the best-selling books of all time.
Or maybe I've heard you talk about it, maybe?
No, so I've read Atomic Habits. I've only read one book on habits.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was listening to a podcast that you did. I can't remember with who, but I remember listening and heard that.
Yeah, I got that tattooed there. So that's from that's from that book.
No way.
Yeah, so it's just like
that shit's deep.
Instant reminder. Yeah. Right, it was like paradigm shifting in my mind.
Yeah.
It was like it was like learning 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
That's how much of basic. It was so easy and so basic. Like the core principles. So like this is one. Like if you get 1% better times 365 days, you'll get 37.78 times better at that thing. So like if you start reading from day one, you get 1% better at reading. 37x improvement.
Yeah.
Like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so just having that mentality, just like 1% better, 1% better.
Yeah, well, mate, like I didn't know about it in that exact way, but like
you can feel it though, right? Like once you hear that, you can relate it back to your life.
That's why I say, like, I always say, fucking have a go. And I'm not saying that in a rude way, but it's like, if you're thinking about doing something, whether it be like sport or reading, or you're thinking about doing something new, but you're like, oh, but I won't be good at it, or I don't know. But like, if you have a go today, you're going to be a fair bit better at it in 6 weeks. Or if you keep fucking around at the moment and in 6 weeks' time you still haven't had a go at it, well, you're already way better off. So like, if you just have a go at something, no one's ever expected to be good at something that they've never done.
Yeah.
Like me and Beth went surfing the other day for the first time. I was shit.
Yeah.
We were both, she was probably better than me, but it was awesome. And I had an awesome time. And like, people were probably there going, oh, look at this dude with tattoos, he can't even surf. Bad luck, I don't care. It was sick. I had an awesome time with me chick, and we now own a surfboard. But it's the same thing. Like, it's like, just have a go at it. Like, and I understand that if you can be the tiniest little bit better each day, then by the end of the year, or 2 years, you're probably great at it. Like,
and the year's gonna pass.
Yeah, there's
that's not gonna wait.
There's those sayings, you'll know it. It's like you put a certain amount of hours into something.
10,000
hours. Yeah, and that seems like a lot, but like, man, if you
if
you put in how many hours you've done on a motorcycle or chasing your business with doing this sort of stuff, 10,000 hours will go pretty quick. Like,
and you'd want more time.
Oh, way more. Yeah, like to be a professional at anything, you want to have it more the better. Like you think about like boys in the States right now who are prepping for Supercross. You think about how many laps and hours they've done on the track, and coming into A1, they're all going to wish they had another 3 weeks of testing or whatever.
100%.
Because you always want more time. It's like I was saying before with the competition, you come into a best trick comp or something, and it's like, you always wish you had another 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever because you wanted to do this or that. So it's like, that's why time's so important, and I feel like you got to make the most of the time that you have, because that's one thing. You can have all the money in the world, but you can't buy time.
Yeah.
Not yet. Maybe one day Elon Musk will come up with something where you can buy time, but at the moment you can't. So you got to choose it wisely, I think, or use it wisely and use it with GCs. Good.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, like, I guess one of the maybe like last little question before we get out of here, like, do you think much about like where your motivation kind of comes from and the reason why? Because for the last 3 hours hearing the story of the triple flip, it's like for 98% of the time that you were doing it,
shit was going wrong.
Shit was going wrong, and no one even knew about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, so there's no validation coming from an outside source. Like it was just purely your own like stubbornness and your own drive. And I think that it's easy to grind in public.
Yep.
And I mean, I've noticed that in my own life. Like as soon as my life becomes more public, it become a lot easier for me to be the person that I kind of like wanted to be, because there was so many people looking at you. So it's like, fuck, all right, I gotta do my shit. But you're like grinding away with no one even knowing what you're trying to do apart from like a few people. Yeah, and then you sign a contract that you're not even allowed to tell people what you're doing. And you're just breaking yourself off, working cunt jobs to do it.
It's a great question. And like, I think it's probably a hard question to answer, but I would say there's a couple factors that go into that. And I think probably the most important or the most meaningful would be the way that I've been brought up as a kid, and I've got a great family, and I think, you know, my old man's very old school, proper Aussie, like work hard, you know, like you don't get anywhere without working hard, and that's how I've been brought up, and you know, my old man is an incredibly hard worker, and so is my brother, and that's just kind of how we've been brought up. So as a kid, I've always thought if you want to do something, you have to work hard. That's how you do it. There's no other way. You don't fall into something. You don't fall into a triple backflip or owning your own podcast. Like you have to work. So I think it was kind of like it was concreted in my brain as a kid. But another thing, like when you're saying, and it's a great question about like, you know, when you can't tell people things or whatever, but you know, for me, like during that time, that's where it was COVID. I was getting up at 3 and I was going and training in our factory where we worked. We had a little gym, and I was in the factory at 3:30. It was pitch black. I had my headphones in, going mad on my own, but it was like I was doing it for myself. And that's, for me, that's why I wanted to do the triple flip. I knew back then my life wasn't going to change. So I wasn't doing it for an Instagram follower or for $100 or whatever. I was doing it for myself. So for me, I didn't need anyone to know. I would have liked to have told people, because it potentially could have made my life a little bit easier as far as like working on it and stuff. But at the end of the day, I didn't really care, because I was doing it for me. So the reason that was the thing that was getting me up, apart from my alarm, but the thing that was making me wake up to that 3 o'clock and going and training and then doing all the 12 hours and doing that, it was because I wanted to. Because the more I did that and the harder I trained, then I felt better, you know. And like I remember listening to some Mike Tyson interviews, and like he was saying back in the day, like he used to get up at 3 o'clock and he used to just train like fuck. And the reason he did that was because he knew that all of his competitors and all these other people were at home in bed, and he was up there getting after it. And then I like, when I say I took onto that, like I lived by that for like 2-3 years, and I still do, because even now I don't have to get up that early, but I still do, because I don't want to go soft. I don't want to turn into, you know, like that's how I used to do it all the time. So it's good. Even if I just do that twice a week, get up at 3 and go and train, I do that to keep myself sharp. But I think, but it's not for anyone, but it's for yourself, you know? So like, I think, you know, people often say to me, how do you find motivation? And I'm like, well, I don't. I've got it built in, because I don't know. That's just how I am as a person. That's how I've always been. And not necessarily not motivation to be like rich or to do this, because hey, I'm still just dude that just goes to work, but I'm motivated to do better or be more efficient at work, or do a revalve, do a set of forks and shock in a little bit less time, or do it more efficiently, or figure out a way. It's the same thing. Like, I'm always trying to figure out, it might only be something super basic, but if you can figure out how to do it a little bit better or make your life easier, then that's kind of motivation. Like, you just keep going. Yeah. Whereas, so like the hardest question I've ever had, and the question I can never answer, is where do you find, people have said it to me so many times, where do you find motivation? I'm like, but you were right. You said, where do you get it from? That's a different question. So I think it was built in, but to ask, how do you do it? I couldn't answer it. It's impossible because it is built in. And I think, I think just to answer that question, I guess, I really just think it's the way that I've been brought up, and the morals and the person that I've kind of been taught to be by my old man and my mother, and with guidance from my brother and sister. I think that's just kind of, because as a family, we're all very similar in that way. We're hard workers, and not because we have to be, because we want to be. There's a difference between, you know what I mean? Like, so I think, and just like a very old school Aussie sort of upbringing, like back in the day, that people were built a bit tougher, I think. So, and I'm just really appreciative and glad that that's how my old man was, because that's definitely the way that I'll be bringing up my children in the future, is with the same sort of morals and respect for others, and that's one thing. Like, to go back with Travis about being a good bloke, one thing I always tell people about him is Travis has the same respect for you, whether you're a CEO of a major company or you're a concreter's labourer who doesn't have a license. Like, the person that he is and how successful he is, he has the same amount of time and respect for any person, no matter what they do, whether they're a fan asking for a signature or they're a potential sponsor. Like, he has the same amount, and I've seen that, and like I've known that for a while now, and I've picked up on that, and I'm like, that shit, people need to know about that, and I'm glad I can talk about that, because that shit's like priceless. Like,
and it's rare these days.
Yeah, and I think, but see, I see that, and I'm like, fuck, I just want to be better now. Like, like someone like him can be like that. Like, that's just epic, like everyone should be like that. So it's and again, like, he's been brought up by, like, Travis's old man was a Marine, like just a mad, like, he's, I don't know, probably in his 60s, and he's like got a six-pack, he's fit as, like, obviously he's been brought up, and like, he used to have to go running in the mornings before school, so his old man would take him riding and stuff. Like, he's been brought up in the same way, and I just think it's all about sort of the morals that you have as a kid and how you've been brought up. And I feel like, maybe they need to bring back some bum smacking in this day and age, because I think it was, I just appreciate that that's how I've been brought up.
I think I guess one of the things, and you'll kind of read it, like if you read Atomic Habits or this 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I think when you can really like galvanize a habit, because what you are as a person is the collection of habits that you have.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's right. Yeah. It's
like,
interesting.
That's right. That's who you, and like you're this plus this plus this plus this plus. It's like a car.
Yes. There's many parts. Yeah.
You're
a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. You're a door isn't a car. A door handle isn't a car. Yep. A first gear isn't a car. A second gear isn't a car. But when you put that together, it becomes a car. And there's like that's the exact same thing of a human, and it's like you're this person that is kind to people. Yep. And then you're a person that is self-motivated, and then you're a person that wants to have respect for people, and then you're a person that puts others before yourself. Like whatever, say a million things.
Yeah, or if you're a dickhead, you're a wanker, you're aggressive, you
do drugs every single weekend. Yeah, like you do there's all these things that you can do.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And then you end up being a car.
Yeah,
And so
I'd love to be a good guy. I'd love to be a Toyota Tundra.
Yeah, so that's what it is. It's like you have all of these little pieces.
Yeah.
And it's not what you do in one day that makes you strong.
Yeah.
Strong is something that is like consistent over time, or fit, or healthy or positive or like you don't just be, there's no like positive part of you that like it's like a first gear in a car.
Yeah, like and that's the difference between being a beat up Daewoo Lanos and being
a Ferrari.
Exactly right. Or like a VL Combi with stock rims and no number plates, or a Ferrari with a fantastic fucking paint job.
100%. And so what like if you want to be a Ferrari level human, then you need to do Ferrari level things.
Yeah, and hang out with Ferrari like people.
Well, people that are almost like mechanics. Hang out that can build
hang out with other mechanics and other people that are great cars.
Yeah.
Don't hang out with that VL Turbo. Yeah. I ain't gonna get you anywhere. I might get you a ticket.
Well, you'll be with Jack Miller. But you know, the point is that I don't know that people look at themselves in that way. And like and another thing that's cool in that book about habits is like the person that you are right now is a result of the habits that you've had for the last few years. Yeah. So if you're overweight, or if you're unhealthy, or if you've got a drug addiction, or if you're an alcoholic, then you actually have habits. Yeah. And they lead to like those kind of results.
Because all those things you mentioned, being overweight, or being addicted to drugs or whatever, that doesn't happen overnight.
No, that's not one thing you do.
Yeah, that happens over a period of time, because to become addicted to something, it's got to be longer than a couple of months. Like to say you're addicted to heroin.
Yeah, that's like, it's a process.
Yeah, or if you're severely overweight, you didn't go and have a hamburger. And then the next day you woke up and you're like, I'm fat. Like, It's staying consistent at doing the wrong thing for a fair bit of time, and then you look at yourself and you know, fuck, I've let myself go. Like it's a habit of not. So after yourself.
So you're already like the product of your habits. But I think so. One thing that's interesting that you said when I was, I guess, asked you about that motivation is that I think, and this is true of like habits as well, is that you see yourself as a certain person.
Yep.
And you see yourself in a certain way, and I think that that's probably the key. And you've obviously, for like whatever reason, like you took the lessons from your parents and your family, and like it did stick and it ingrained in your mind, and then you see yourself as the person that gets up every day. You see yourself as a person that doesn't have a day off. You see yourself like with your suspension, that you see yourself as a person that does a really good job. Like fucking up somebody's bike is not an option to you.
No fucking chance. You know? And it's the attention to detail and other things that kind of lead to you doing a good job, you know?
Yeah. But and I think there's like a certain level of joy that can be extracted in that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's like and I feel the same. Like the podcast for me, like I mean, you can ask Griff. He's been at the receiving end of some fucking frustration on my end when something hasn't been done like properly.
Yeah,
and that nothing's gonna happen. Like really bad is gonna happen by like not doing one thing wrong.
Yeah,
but in my mind, I'm like, no. That's not okay. Like
we don't want to be like that.
And it's because I see myself as a person. So like, for example, it's like we missed one camera, wasn't turned on all the way properly. Like we still got the whole back and forth of the show, but we didn't have this one solid recording of like one camera for the entire time. Big no for me. Didn't matter. The show went out. Everything's fine. But that's that one thing. So like,
you don't want to make that a habit of like, oh, it's okay, and then that could, if that like, no, that shit can't happen. So what happens
if one day Red Bull calls and they're like, oh, we love this thing that this guy said at this point in time. Is there any way that you can send us that footage with just his face and just that 30 seconds? Oh no, sorry, the camera was switched over me and then we didn't. Yeah. So it's like, even if it doesn't matter now, maybe it will matter. And it's a certain, but I guess it comes back to like, it's a certain way I like see myself. Like I see myself as the person that can answer that phone call and deliver on that. So it's like,
because this is a product of you. What you're doing, this is your business. So this is a product of you. And I feel like it's a totally different thing. But when I do a set of suspension for someone, that's a product of me. Like the other day I did Mike Sleater's stuff.
Yeah, which he said was great, by the way.
Yeah, I was speaking to him yesterday. He was stoked. But I went above and beyond to do some extra things, but it's because he's who he is, and I respect him a lot. And at the end of the day, like that's a product of and like it's the same as this. Like it's a product of who you are, basically. So you're not going to give out something that's half of what you can do. Like, you're giving them everything that you got. So,
and then inside of that, so there's like that outward facing thing, which is like if Red Bull calls or if someone calls and they want this thing, I can deliver the way that I want to. But then I've also learned in the years and years and years of doing not just the podcast, but just like filming in general, is like attention to detail and like doing something properly. There's a level of fulfillment in that.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes me feel good.
Yes.
So, like, the things that feel good to me aren't the, like, big outward-facing things with the podcast, like how many downloads it gets or how much money it makes. Like, those things are very important.
They're
and
great,
they matter, and I put a lot of effort into those things.
Yeah.
But those things can go up and they can go down, and there's external factors that can act on those things, which if I let those things, if I tied my mood, my fulfillment, my happiness to those things,
it'd be like a roller coaster.
Yeah, exactly. They're subject to like this outside influence that I can't control. Exactly. But what I can control is doing a fucking good job.
Yeah, and
only
level.
Stuff that we see internally, you know.
Yeah.
And then through the roller coasters, through the ups and downs, I don't let the lows fuck with me too much, because then I'm like, well, who cares? Like, we can still make this better. We can still do this better. We can still figure out a way to get it done faster. We can figure out a way to do more shows. Like, there's that big thing in the middle doesn't change for you. And that's what, like, I just can see that in you. And I think that that's what comes with, like you said, doing things for yourself, doing things for the right reason, and just doing things for their own sake and then getting fulfillment out of those things.
I totally agree, mate. And I think one thing I'd like to touch on as well is, like, you know how you're saying, like, with the lows and stuff, honestly, as I've gotten older and probably more experienced in life, I guess, I feel like it's only healthy on your journey to have those lows, because, and I say this to people all the time, because I always stay really positive when I have bad shit happen, like, but it doesn't matter what's happened. At the time, it might not make sense, but I guarantee you a short time after that, you can take a positive from that situation, no matter what it is. There's always something. I might be very optimistic in the way I think about that, but I can fucking always draw a positive out of a shit situation. Like, it could be horrible, but, and as I said, I'm no one special. I'm not going to know that straight away. I could be
6 months down the road until you figure it out.
I could be spewing. I could be like steam coming out my ears, like pissed off, you know, really stewing on it and thinking about it. But then it will work out. Like, even, for instance, I'll give you a good example. When I broke my femur at the start of the year, I was really disappointed. Not only was I in pain, I was not making any money. My dreams of doing this triple on tour off this crazy ramp have all gone out. But then at the time, I was like, this is shit. But what that did for me was, that was a sign from someone saying, fuck that ramp off. That thing's too dangerous. You crash on that, you might die. And what that did was, it made me go back to the drawing board, and it made me figure out I can do this off a ramp half the size with half as much risk, but do the same thing. And then it's taught me so much more stuff. So at the time, I didn't know that. But then you fast forward 6 months of fucking whatever, pain and hobbling around. But now I'm like, I'm glad that happened. I am. I would have liked people to see it because of the wow factor, because of the height, but I'm not going to say I'm stoked it happened, but I'm actually very happy that it happened. Like, maybe a broken wrist might have been better, but if I broke my wrist, I would have gone straight back. Yeah. And it wasn't even my decision to pull that ramp, like, to cancel it, because I was still in the head, I was still mental. I was like, let's fucking do it. But it was nitro and that, but I'm glad it went like it did, because to fast forward a little bit of time, and here we are on the podcast talking about landing a triple flip on whatever. So it's like, you can always, I think the ups are great and the lows are not great, but it's what you do about the lows. If you can learn something from the low points, or the disappointing times, if you can learn something from it months, years down the track, then you've won at the end of the day. Fuck the low. You've won, because you figured out how to either prevent that from happening again, or how to become more switched on and how to deal with the situation, or whatever. Or you learn how to build a smaller ramp and do a triple flip. Whatever you get out of it, that's what's important, I think. So that's something, and it's taken me a little bit to kind of understand. Not to understand, but how to. Well,
it's like lived experience, though. Like, you've been through it enough times now to know that the next time something shit happens, that you're like, I just got to wait 6 months.
Yeah, and you just know that something, but you've got to keep positive, I think, and you've got to keep pushing forward, and then that 6 months will come around, and then you'll figure something out. But if you're just like, fuck this, and you're sitting on the couch now, not doing anything or whatever, but like, I feel like staying positive is like so important, and that's another thing that I've always tried to stay positive, and stuff, but like in the last couple of years I've really
doubled down on it.
Yeah, and that was the reason I bought that Zero Negativity book from Ant Middleton, and that's the name is what drew me to it. I knew kind of who he was, but not much, but the name, I was at the bookstore at Pac Fair and I'm like, I'm buying that. Yeah. Give me 10 of them. Yeah. But, and because I had the femur broken and all that, that's why I bought it. And then reading that book actually taught me a bit too. But like, I think I could go on all day about how important I think it is, but I think if anyone gets anything out of this podcast, if you've listened this long, if you can try to stay positive in a bad situation, it's going to get you so much further. And another thing I'll say, if anyone is having a shit go at it, like having a bad injury or got fired or whatever, hey, reach out to me. Send me a message on Instagram. I'll reply to you. I'll tell you. I might not have been through what you've been through, or it could be something so much worse, but at least I can have a chat to you and I can go, fuck, like, I don't know, I'll try doing this, maybe, or whatever. Or even if I have zero advice, at least we can have a chat. So, yeah, anyone, fucking feel free, hit me up, because I like talking to people, and if I can help one person, then I'll be stoked. And that's serious, like 100%.
Well, mate, you sent a message back whenever about getting something out of the podcast. I've now gotten something out of you for like three hours plus now. I really appreciate you coming on.
No, mate, I appreciate it. Like, I've been a very close follower of your podcast and your team and stuff for the last, I don't know, it's been a while now, years. So I haven't listened to all of them, but I've fucking had a pretty good crack. I've listened to a lot of them, man. Like a lot of them, yeah. So I appreciate that, and hopefully some people have kind of got to know me on more of a personal level, opposed to just a dude with a helmet on. So and it'd be cool to get some feedback from people and everything. But no, I really appreciate.
Definitely will.
Yeah, I really appreciate being on. It's awesome, and just look forward to what's next.
Well, man, honestly, like, these are the ones that I just enjoy so much.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I feel so selfish at times doing this because I get so much out of it. So,
I feel like, this would be great for me, because at the end of the day, not many people know me, or maybe some people here in Australia. I got a little bit of a following in the States, but I think for me, this is going to be awesome. So don't feel selfish, because this is going to be great for me, and my life isn't going to change tomorrow. I don't expect to get anything out of this, but if I get a couple more mates, or if I can give inspiration to 5 people or 50, for sure, well, then I'll be stoked. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what matters. I don't fucking care about any other shit. That's if that's, we're all human at the end of the day. So if you can kind of help someone out or give them that extra push to do whatever they're trying to do a bit harder, then I'm fucking happy. So
you're a legend, bro. I appreciate it, mate.
Legend. No worries.
Talk to you soon. We'll do it again for sure.
Absolutely. Sweet. Cheers.
Legend, bro.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.